The following is a presentation of Sertoba Media and Comey Media Incorporated. Brock Purdy and Jalen Hurts are trash. And of the ridiculous, stupid overreaction thoughts as to week 6 and when previewing week 7, this is Total Football Talk. Welcome to another installment of Total Football Talk. Total Football Talk, where we bring you gridiron talk the way you like it. I am one of the co-hosts of this program, Cole Johnson, aka EP Extraordinaire, and that mad scientist. And I'm joined, as always, by the other co-host of this program, D. Willie, or Mr. In or Out, or Mr. D. Will in the Evening, or any other wonderful names that you want to call him, Mr. Sertoba Media as well, Drew Willingham. How you doing, my man?
So many names, so many places, such little time. Having a great time out here on these streams with all of you. Looking forward to another great episode with my man, Cole Johnson. Stick around for the very end. We got a special announcement for you as well.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. But we're not at the end. We're at the beginning. And you know what happens. Opening drive time.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On two. Ready? Break.
Now, as you know, that we are in the bye portion of the season. And there was only 2 teams on bye last week. And that was the Packers and the Steelers. That's right. Those 2 were on byes. And, well, I think they missed out on, well, we'll check out what they missed out on. They didn't miss out on anything Thursday. Because the Kansas City Chiefs just basically yarned their way to a 19-8 victory over the Broncos. The only thing of note basically was Travis Kelce. Even though he was hurt from 4 days earlier, he put in a good performance. Your thoughts on the game?
These Denver Broncos are absolutely terrible. The only team in the NFL at this point with well, I wouldn't say the only team because they got to win, okay? But they're not the only winless team in the NFL. But the only team that when I watch their games, like I immediately get ready for nap time because it is that type of snooze fest whenever you watch the Denver Broncos. I mean, look at the inside of these stats. Russell Wilson had 95 passing yards for the entire game, Cole. 95 passing yards, 13 to 22 on the attempts, 1 touchdown. Oh, yeah, but something he's not afraid to throw, and that is interceptions. He threw 2 of those.
2 of them.
So looking at what you see on the other side of the ball, Mahomes was on fire as always. I mean, we don't expect anything less as he threw for 300 passing yards, had a touchdown and only 1 pick compared to Wilson's 2. But a 19-8 snooze fest, you know, when it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs, you expect them to put up more points, but they really don't have to when they're playing a caliber team like the Denver Broncos.
No. 19's plenty enough. And yeah, Kelce, 9 receptions, 124 yards. I guess that ankle's doing pretty good. But that game, and we already starting off with it, it was bowling shoe ugly. One that was go ahead.
That Swifty magic, though, it's working on that ankle, though. He's back up running. You saw the production that we got out of Travis Kelce on that day. 9 receptions, 124 yards. Let that magic keep flowing in Arrowhead Stadium.
Swifty magic. Okay. Goodness gracious. So we now we have played the last of the London portion of the international games, and it was the Ravens going against the Titans. The Titans were the home team. Unfortunately, they took it on the chin to the tune of 24-16 due to the Ravens defense sacking both Ryan Tannehill and Malik Willis 6 times, getting a pick and getting a fumble recovery. Oh, and Lamar Jackson, pretty efficient, 21-30, 223-yard day with a touchdown. He did throw a pick, and Ryan Tannehill did lead the game in the third quarter. Your thoughts on this game?
You know, they flipped the script from the week before as they lost to the Colts 23-16 and just basically took a similar score the following week. But I know you were happy. To see this happen this upcoming week. When it comes to this Tennessee Titans team, as we have definitely documented in the past, your hatred towards this team. And I don't disagree with your thoughts on this team whatsoever. But when it comes to the game style play of this right here, Tannehill was worse than Russell Wilson. We were just talking about a bad quarterback in the previous game, throwing for under 100 yards. Tannehill, the leader of the Titans, with 76 passing yards and an interception. They've got to make the move, and they got to make it fast if they want to have any chance of resurrecting the season.
And what sucks is they are wasting a wonderful running back in his prime in Derrick Henry, wasting him. And I'm like, you got a talent there. Why don't you surround him with other talent to make him flourish? But hey, they're on my team. I'm glad that they're faltering. It makes me happy. Like you said, I'm overjoyed. Yes, the Ravens go to 4-2. The Titans go to 2-4. Oh, and yes, the Broncos are now 1-5, and the Chiefs are 5-1. One of the 5-1 teams. I did say 5-1, right? Yeah, that's what I thought. Going to the Sunday afternoon slate, and we begin by D. Willie's Commanders going to the A and facing off to the Falcons. I have to admit, I'm proud of this gutsy win by the Commanders, 24-16. Sam Howell had a decent, efficient day, 14-23, 151 yards, but he threw for 3 touchdowns and did not turn the ball over. So I give him mad credit for that. On the losing end, Desmond Ridder, he threw for 307 yards. He did throw for 2 touchdowns, but he also threw for 3 picks. So the Commander secondary was active. Also for the Falcons, Drake London, 9 receptions, 125 yards, and the Falcons did put Howell down 5 times, which that brings me to my most concerning part of the Commanders, which is their offensive line. Your thoughts, sir?
This offensive line is definitely a major concern of mine, and I definitely went through this on Commander's Gridiron Report yesterday, but to give a scaled-down report on it today, as we got plenty of other games to get to, the offensive line is making Sam Howell dance back there, which is why he's on pace to break David Carr's sack record this season, potentially, if he keeps going at this rate, or even worse, potentially getting hurt if he keeps taking these impactful hits, which is what I'm afraid of, because you look at what happened the week before. He threw for 388 yards. I mean, he can sling the rock out there. This week, he played more game manager mode. He went through for 151 yards, but had 3 touchdown conversions, which definitely helps seal the game right here. But I give it more to the Falcons giving up this game than anything else, because Ridder throwing 3 interceptions, it was still a 1-possession game to end the game. It was 24-16. Yeah. Had he not thrown 3 interceptions, but maybe turned it over once, out of those other 2 opportunities that they failed on because he threw those interceptions, they could have converted on and potentially took the win right there. And him not having his first ever home loss of his college, now professional career at home, when playing at home. But looking at this overall Commanders team, I was happy with what the defense did yesterday overall. They definitely stepped up. You've got some great production overall from Terry McLaurin as well. But the running game is definitely suffering when it comes to that offensive line because they're not providing gaps or holes or anything for Brian Robinson to go through. When you see 10 carries for 31 yards, that's absolutely atrocious. And I've been talking about it now for several weeks about how this offensive line is not giving them any holes to run through. They've got to fix those big errors right there in that offensive line during this season, whether it's elevating the play from what they've got or making moves this offseason if they have any chance of progressing this team going forward.
I 100% agree with you. I totally agree with you. I think they have to shore up the offensive line because you just mentioned it right there. It makes the quarterback dance, and it's not giving the running backs proper holes to run through, and that is not helping their defense out because you need to have that offense operate. But with that being said, they are 3-3, and the Falcons also are 3-3. We see Ryan McCarthy, no credentials required fame. We're going to actually have what you just typed. We're going to play it when we talk about the Eagles, as you said, Jets game. I think you're going to like what we do when we talk about that game.
Oh yeah.
I just have a feeling. Just a wee bit of a feeling. The Bengals, they hosted the Seahawks, and the Seahawks basically did exactly what I thought they were going to do. They basically screwed the pooch. They lost the game 17-13. The Bengals defense was probably the most impressive part of the game. 4 sacks, 2 INTs. Geno Smith, he did throw for over 300 yards, but he threw for 2 picks, as I mentioned. And Tyler Lockett for a losing cause, 94 yards on 6 receptions. I mean, you could feature also Jamar Chase. He had a decent game, but not a great game. And you can say the same about Joe Burrow. He had a decent game, but not a great game too, but it was a gutsy win. Your thoughts?
You know, we got a famous commercial that's growing out there in stride, and you know exactly what I talk about. When you see that commercial and how he plays or how he has played, at least to start the season. Now, 185 yards, yes, he is still at the top of the pack right there. When you look at Dumpster Pelicans, is he 1? Is he 2? I'm not quite sure yet at this time, but 185 yards. Joe Burrow, we're used to seeing more production than that.
Yeah.
And, of course, yeah, he is banged up, and I'll give him a little bit of that as we understand the fact that, you know, he got banged up before the season even started. But when Geno Smith has got more passing yards than you, except for 2 interceptions that definitely cost them the game, and we can definitely debate that one right there as it was only a 4-point score difference, and, you know, he threw those 2 interceptions. Had Geno Smith been better at protecting the ball, which last year he did a really great job with, you know, seeing this game right here at the Bengals, had he done a better job at protecting the ball, the Bengals would not have won this game right now, and they would be 2-4. So I don't really give it to Joe Burrow. I hear you on the gutsiness, and in certain situations that he was in, yeah, he made some gutsy calls, but he wouldn't have been in that position had Geno Smith done a better job protecting the football.
Oh, I totally agree with that. Do I think that the Bengals are all the way back? No. Although, yes, they now have a modest winning streak. I'm not really sold on the team yet. And I know they normally, or at least this crew, is normally slow starting. And they pick up the pace around now. They just don't look like they have the firepower like they've had the last 2 years. It almost seems as if it's a cross between Burrow being injured and playing, and teams actually figuring out what the Bengals like to do best, and the Bengals haven't countered that yet. It seems like it's a cross between those two. But who knows? The Seahawks, they fall to 3-2. The Bengals, they now improve to 3-3, and we'll see how well they do going forward. Will Joe Burrow not any longer be a dumpster pelican?
And Mickey Delaney is in the house, definitely talking about the Hawks and losing to the Bengals. In some other style of context. Mick, I will give you a little bit of heads up. If you use a little bit different context, we'll showcase the wording on the show. But you know exactly what I'm talking about, Mick. You talk about Ike, I got to give you your policing right here in this moment. But we can show this, and that is Wise El Jefe is in the house. So welcome to the show, fellas. We appreciate you showing up.
Man, glad to see you, my brother. Glad we see you. Glad to see you. All right, so we now are featuring the Jaguars. They hosted the Colts. Of course, didn't matter to me. I was going to be happy because some AFC South team was going to lose. 37-20, the final score. The Jaguars won it, and the game really was not even that close. The Jaguars defense, they were the studs in this one. 3 sacks, 3 INTs on a fumble recovery. And they had your man, Gardner Minshew, the second. 33 of 55, 329 yards, a touchdown, and those 3 picks. Your thoughts on this game and Uncle Rico?
I have been on record in the past by saying that if Uncle Rico comes in relief, that they've got a great chance of him taking over this game and them winning. But he started the game, Cole. And that was something that I was concerned about last week when we talked about this for the previews of this game right here. Uncle Rico, he showed up with over 300 passing yards. He did a better job than Russell mother-fathering Wilson, okay?
Yeah, that's true.
When it came to passing the ball, he had 55 pass attempts and converted on 33 of them. That's not that bad. But the bad stat here is those 3 interceptions because you lost by 17 points. Those three conversions right there that you were down by, or possessions, turnover, whatever you were down by, you gave them up by those 3 interceptions. So had you not done that, you potentially would have been right in the game. This Jaguar team is not a team that you can give up that many turnovers to and expect to have a tight game or even win. It's just not going to happen. So for Uncle Rico to show us why he is a career backup, we saw that this past weekend. Because Zach Moss, again, they're having issues with the offensive line, it seems like, too, because he's only got 7 carries for 21 yards and a touchdown. That's absolutely atrocious for the Colts. The only highlight that I saw was Michael Pittman's 9 receptions for 109 yards, which helped Uncle Rico have those 300-plus passing yards for the game.
And I agree. That is alarming considering that Zach Moss really has been a bright spot that the Colts did not think was going to happen. And for him to have those numbers, it's not on him, not all on him. But yes, I agree. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Yes, the Seahawks, the team that looked like they were better than the Bengals, actually had the nerve to just drop an egg to them. I shake my head at that too. I expected it, but I still shake my head at it because I think they shouldn't have lost that game to them. Oh well. But the Jaguars, they improved to 4-2. The Colts, they dropped to 3-3. As I said, I'm happy because one of those AFC South teams lost. Dang, we didn't get a tie.
It's coming.
A tie probably is coming, and it'd probably be the Texans again, like it was last year. The Dolphins hosted the Panthers at South Beach. The Panthers spotted them. The Dolphins spotted the Panthers a 14-0 lead before the Dolphins actually took the game seriously. The final score was 42-21. Again, that game wasn't even that close. Tua Tagovailoa had an efficient game, 21-31, 262 yards, 3 touchdowns, no INTs. Tyreek Hill, who is trying to get 2,000 yards within 16 games, it looks like. 6 receptions, 163 yards and a touchdown. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he is now about 180-plus yards away from 1,000 for the season.
That's insane.
Crazy. That is insane.
That is insane that we are already talking about that.
Yeah. They only played 6 games, and he has over 800 yards receiving. Gosh, that is sad. Look, more power to your cheetah, but that's just sick. Raheem Mostert from the backfield and from out the backfield. 17 carries, 115 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 receptions, 17 yards, and a receiving touchdown. And for a losing cause, Adam Thielen, 11 receptions, 115 yards, and a touch. Your thoughts on this game?
This was absolutely wild because you talk about the Panthers hosting this game. But the Dolphins came in and treated it like it was their house. Like they came in and took over when it comes to this Panthers team. When you look at this overall score of everything that happened in this past week, my apologies, I was wrong. Miami hosted, so it was their house. It did take over, so my apologies. Right. But when you look at this right here, Tyreek Hill, he is averaging, Cole, 19.4 yards per reception. That's Madden game numbers. Actually, yes. Madden video game, you don't even average that much in a season when you play an entire season. So this is like every cheat code unlocked and given to your disposal out there. Playing child's play out there on the field is what Tyreek Hill is doing. When you are 186 yards away from being at 1,000 yards, and we're only through 6 weeks. 6 weeks. Not even a full, well, yeah, we're at a third of the season at this point, pretty much. When you're at a third of the season and you're at this point and you're on pace to have over like 2,400 yards for the season, if you play every single game and at this magnitude, just to get to 2,000 yards for a running back has been absolutely tough. Can you imagine him doing 2,000 yards receiving for the season through 16 games? Through 16 or less games. I'm not even talking about through 17 games.
17.
You know, we have a clip from one of our previous episodes. I think it was last week's one, where I was just talking about Tyreek Hill and breaking the record potentially in 16 to 17 games or less or whatnot.
He might do
it.
And
now we're talking about the fact that he might not only do that, but eclipse 2,000 yards before we even get to the 16th game of the season, let alone the 16th week. So the Dolphins are definitely on another level right now as a whole team, not just Tyreek Hill. Like they are all putting in the work here. Tua staying healthy is great to see, and for him to put up the numbers that he is and to bounce back, he should definitely deserve some type of comeback player of the year for the type of injuries that he withstood, and then is coming back playing at this level, because there's not many people that I know of that got banged up with head injuries, and especially in a short period of time like Tua, and then coming back this next season, rocking and rolling and putting up the numbers they're putting up statistically as a whole for the team, him individually, but the accolades as a whole for this team are great to see right now, especially when you saw that 70-point game we saw a few weeks ago.
Yeah, they're great. They're awesome. Let me see. The Panthers are now they're now dropped to 2-4. Nope. 1-5. Nope. 0-6. Yes. Unfortunately, their poor season continues. Poor Bryce Young. Meanwhile, the Dolphins improved to 5-1. There's that record again. You'll be hearing it a few more times. Ryan, he says the Bengals. Is Ray watching? We'll get to the Jets momentarily. Lord, thank you, Ryan. Goodness
it's coming.
Gracious. Yes, it is coming. Oh Lord, and definitely we come to a true, unadulterated, ridiculous dumpster in game. The Vikings and the Bears at Soldier Field. The Vikings with 5 sacks, their defense with 5 sacks, 2 INTs and a fumble recovery, knocked out Justin Fields, and went on to an unimpressive 19-13 victory. And as I said, for them to win, Kirk Cousins needs to not throw for 200 yards. He didn't throw for 200 yards in this game. The Vikings came out on the winning end. Your thoughts, sir?
I feel like Kevin O'Connell's trying to get fired, even though he won the game. I mean, what is going on over there in Minnesota, Cole? I mean, especially from what we saw last year, it's not like they exposed themselves enough to where everybody got so much tape on them last year to where they know how to completely stop them the way that they're doing this year. I feel like it's part they understand what type of team that they're facing when it comes to the other side of the ball. But Minnesota's also on the other half of that, giving them the edge by not playing up to the expectations from what we saw from last year. You expected a lot more out of Minnesota at this point in the year. And we've been talking about the Bears over the past few weeks on the come up, doing a lot better than what they did to start out the year. And then they come into this week. I kind of expected Minnesota to get the win, but based on the Bears, the way they've been playing the past few weeks, especially last week against the Commanders, and then the Minnesota, with them finally getting a win, we get to this point. I expected it to be a little bit more of a higher scoring contest, a little bit more boosted stats. Didn't expect to see Kirk Cousins with less than 200 passing yards. But then we see the results of what's to come at the end of this game. And it wasn't Dick Butkus that came through and saved the Bears this time by getting a win, okay? As we're talking about the potential of an NFL script being in place, okay? Didn't work out for him this week. So the script felt like it was necessary for Kirk Cousins on 180-some passing yards to get the victory. I think not. The storytellers got it wrong. Go back on strike because your leading passer for the Bears after you took out Fields was Badgett, who had 83 passing yards, 10 of 14, actually. For the short period of time that he was in there, he didn't do bad until he threw that interception. Until he turned the ball over, he was actually looking pretty decent. They were moving the chains. But then he turned the ball over, and of course, the history has been said at that point. Both of these teams played in the toilet bowl of the week, and you were up there in the top 4 of Dumpster Pelicans.
I agree with that. Yeah, the Vikings improved to 2-4. The Bears dropped to 1-5. And speaking of dropping, that game bold and shoe ugly. Good Lord. And as for the NFL having a script, all that is a piece of. And we get to Houston. NRG Stadium is the place. The Texans hosting the Saints, and the Texans hold on to win 20-13. CJ Stroud did not have the most impressive games. He actually threw under 50%, 13-27. Didn't throw over 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. He finally threw his first interception of his NFL career. But hey, it came in a victory. For the losing Saints, Derek Carr threw for over 300 yards, 32 of 50 for 353 yards, a touchdown, and an INT. And Chris Olave was the big target for him, several receptions for 96 yards. Your thoughts on this game, sir?
Alvin Kamara produced a little bit too by getting, almost 70 yards. And, I have to give my hat off to him because there's been certain points where I've been wondering where the sighting of Alvin Kamara was because, he's been kind of faint in certain parts this year. But Derek Carr, in the production that he put up for this team in the losing effort, gotta give respect and the hats off to him. You can tell this year with the Raiders that it wasn't all Derek Carr. It was definitely not all his fault with the way that those games are going. In fact, he was the one that was keeping them in those games when they were tight and they were losing them. And we're seeing the same thing here in New Orleans. So when it comes to the Texans, I know that you are just as happy as I was to see the Commanders win, as you saw your team get that win this past weekend. Unfortunately, Stroud does throw his first interception, his first turnover of the year when it comes to that. But for him to get through 5 games before even getting to that point as a rookie is a testament for this type of potential that you got for this kid, for your franchise for years to come. So, and you do that and you still overcome the turnover and you get the victory over a decent team in the Saints led by a decent quarterback in Derek Carr. So when you look at everything, it's looking great as a whole for the picture for D'Amico Ryans and this team over there in Houston. I'm happy for what you're building over there, brother, when it comes to what the Houston Texans have got going on.
Thank you. And it is looking as though the team already is responding to Stroud being that guy, being the leader in the locker room already. And it's amazing that they're taking to him so soon. And obviously they're buying into what D'Amico Ryans is selling. And how could you not? I mean, the guy knows what he's doing, especially on defense. And it looks like he knows what he's doing when it comes to delegating in roles, because he isn't stepping in and infringing upon things. He's letting everybody do their thing and cook. And already the team has won as many games this year than last year, and we're only 1/3 of the way through the season. So yeah, hats off to you, D'Amico. I love the job you're doing. I figured he was going to do well. I didn't think you were going to do this well this soon, but I'm happy for you, brother. The Texans are 3-3. So are the Saints. And I am looking forward to seeing what the future holds. Yeah, if we can get another pass rusher to match up with Will Anderson, and probably another stud for a linebacker, I would love that defense just a little bit more. And I think we need to get a couple of more pieces on the offensive line because they try to run, but it just isn't quite there yet. But slow and steady is a race, and I have to understand that. This team was 3-13-1 last year, so they're building off of that. And I'm just happy that they are where they are. Now to the 4-5 and 4-25 slate. And my partner was just talking about the Raiders. They hosted the Patriots in Las Vegas. They should be in Los Angeles, but this is not soapbox theater. The Raiders win the game 21-17, or should I say the Patriots lost it? Well, doesn't matter. The Raiders defense, to me, were the stars of this game. 4 sacks and an INT of Mac Jones, who he did complete 24-33 passes for only 200 yards and a touchdown, along with that pick. Kendrick Bourne, I didn't think he was still on the team. For the losing effort of the Patriots, 10 receptions, 89 yards. Now, the big news of this story, of this game, I should say, is Jimmy Garoppolo. He went out with a back injury, but I think tests are negative on it. Your thoughts on this game, sir?
One, the back is not to play around with. So hopefully, no matter what the severity is, he takes it easy and doesn't rush it, because you take one wrong hit with a sore back can make it even worse. So play it smart there, Jimmy G. But
Please.
You talk about soapbox. Don't talk about something to soapbox real quick when it comes to this right here, Cole Johnson. When it comes to the New England Patriots losing again, 1-5. The soapbox that's going on right now is, will they or will they not fire Bill Belichick before the end of the season, if he's going to make it to the rest of the year? I did not see through the first 6 games that the hoodie only had 1 win. There was one team that I saw that would have 1 win through 6 games. We'll get to that in a little bit. And I was right again, and I'm sorry, but hey, we'll talk about that here in a little bit. Hey, I'm sorry. We're only 2 weeks away from me going, celebrate good times. Come on. Hey, but let me get back to right here. When it comes to this team right here with the New England Patriots, 1-5. Does the hoodie go before the season ends? I don't know, but all I know is that's going to definitely be a short later.
Oh my gosh. I tell you, from Mr. Disrespect to Mr. Prophecy. Oh my God. So now we're down to Tampa Bay, or I should say the Tampa St. Petersburg area, where the Buccaneers hosted the Lions. The Buccaneers just didn't have anything for the Lions. They lose it 20-6. I'm sorry. The Raiders improved to 3-3. The Patriots 1-5. Jared Goff, wonderful game actually. 30 of 44, 353 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's becoming a reliable target for Goff. 12 receptions, 124 yards, and 1 of those 2 touchdowns. To me, I am seeing this Lions team, and it's looking as though everybody feels as though they can step up and contribute. And it's beautiful to see that. Your thoughts, sir?
It's been a couple weeks, but the fire keeps going. Bunker Stayfield shows up for this game right here, as you were at home, and you hosted this game right here in Tampa Bay, because it's definitely got the remnants of Tampa still around, because you played like Bunker in this actual game right here. You let Jared Goff, who was treated like Old Yeller and left out for pasture when he went to the Lions, right? And now Old Yeller throws for 353 yards, 2 touchdowns to take the game over Bunker Stayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So when you look at all of this right here, and you look at Bunker throwing 206 yards, 1 interception, 19 of 37. For those of you who are smoking the ayahuasca and getting all ready to roll when it comes to this Tampa Bay Buccaneers or Buccaneers team, at least you got humbled this past week by a Lions team who not many people saw that we would have potentially in the top 5 in the power rankings at this point in the year through 6 weeks. And there are some people that got the Lions in the top 3, and I'm not even mad at it. But You got to look at Dan Campbell and what he's got brewing over there with him biting off all those kneecaps. It's showing they're coming and they're ready to rock.
Oh man, yes, they're ready for violence. It looks like. And look, Buccaneers, wonderful creamsicle jerseys. Unfortunately, you got creamed like the ones who used to wear those creamsicle jerseys way back in the 70s and early 80s. You gotta love it. Now, going from Tampa to LA, where the Cardinals went on the road to play the Rams, and the Cardinals need not to have shown up. 26-9 was the final score. Cooper Kupp, it looks like he has come back just fine. 7 receptions, 148 yards, and a touchdown. Kyren Williams, 158 yards on 20 carries and a touchdown. Dare I say, when the Rams run the ball, they actually are a pretty good team. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy they actually did balance in this game. Your thoughts, sir?
You know, we were talking about this and them establishing the run, as they didn't do it the week before when they had played the Eagles.
Right.
But they did do it the week prior to that when they played the Colts, and they beat the Colts 29-23. So when I was looking at all this before we went live today, and I was thinking about the fact of them establishing the run, of course, it's going to be tougher to do it against the Eagles team when there is the type of defense the Eagles have, because the Eagles on both sides of the ball are well-rounded, right?
They are. So
when I put all that in perspective and I think about how this Eagles team affected them, they might have elevated the Rams to another level by making them think like, we've only got 53 yards against the Eagles, but if we can do 53 running yards, we might as well try to keep establishing the run. And that's what they did in this past week by doing that against the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals definitely played like the Arizona Cardinals that we've been seeing on paper this season. But for the first 4 to 5 weeks, they were actually keeping in all the games that they were playing. This was probably the first game that I can look at the Arizona Cardinals and saying from beginning to end, I knew they were going to lose. Like, they've been in it every single game, it felt like, up until this past week. So Dobbs was doing pretty good. I mean, he still threw for 235 yards, 21 of 41, but that one interception definitely contributed a little bit. But they were going to lose anyway when you look at the overall stats of this game.
That's a good point about the Cardinals. They have been in the fight, so to speak, but it looks like in this game they basically waved the right flag. So the Buccaneers have dropped to 3-2. The Cardinals, they dropped to 1-5. The Rams, they improved to 3-3, and the Detroit Lions are now, yes, you guessed it, 5-1. I think you can hear that about at least 2 more times. Yes. Let's go to the Sunday night game. I'm sorry. My bad. The Bills and the Giants played an ugly game Sunday night. The Bills, they won 14-9. Controversially, I may add. We'll get to that in a moment. Stephon Diggs, 10 receptions, 100 yards. And not mistaken, I think this is the 4th game in a row he has had over 100 yards. 100 yards or over, I should say, which I think is a record for Bills wide receivers. The offense did get 127 rushing yards. And for a losing cause, Saquon Barkley, 24 carries, 93 yards. And, of course, Danny Dimes or Danny Crimes did not play, or Daniel Jones. Poor thing. Tyrod Taylor played in his stead, and the offense actually looked better, although they didn't punch the ball in when they had the ball inside the 5 at the half, and then inside the 5 to end the game. 1 penalty they threw for holding, and then the next penalty that should have been thrown because holding was even more egregious, the flag didn't fly. But oh well. The Lions dropped to 1-5 now. The Bills are now 4-2. Your thoughts, sir?
I told you this was going to happen. I told you that this was going to happen. I got the victory wrong. Okay, I called that wrong. One of their losses that I called, they got in the one victory. But in 6 weeks, I'm sorry to break hearts out here in these streets, but it actually happened. I was right through the first 6 weeks of the year. You didn't think so, Giants fans. One in particular. I was not trying to be disrespectful. I was just calling it like I saw it, okay? I expected the Commanders to be 3-3 at this point. Was I wrong? No. Doesn't mean I'm perfect. I did take some educated guesses along the way. But with the Giants, I didn't. The Giants, I saw it for what it was. I called it for 1-7. I am almost there. I have been living on the prayer, but no longer anymore. We are here at 1-5. 2 more losses, 2 more weeks. We got another preview, and I'll let you know if I still am riding the wave of the 1-7 wave. Now, when it comes to this right here, I have to give it to the Bills. The Bills deserve to lose this game. Like the Giants deserved, in my opinion, watching this game. Part of me wanted to be right and then lose and be 1-5. The other part of me wanted them to actually win this game because I like Tyrod Taylor. He's from Virginia Tech.
Of course.
And, I've seen him, a lot over his career. I wanted him to win the game. But, for his sake and his career, you give him a little bit of a rejuvenation. But when it comes to the Bills and, Josh Allen, we're used to him slinging the rock, running around, doing what he does, and he only threw for 169 yards in this game.
Yeah.
And to me, that's not very Josh Allen-esque numbers. He ran twice for 11 yards. I'm not really worried about the running, but
no, I'm not either.
And it wasn't like the weather was bad.
No,
it was making it happen. So when it comes to that, let's see, Mick with his take last week. Yeah, we'll get to that in a little bit when we get back to the previews, Mick. But when it comes to the Giants right here playing the Bills, looking at this game, the Giants had several opportunities to take the lead, to put the pressure on the Bills, and they folded each and every time. And it's not so much on the quarterback. It's on the overall play of the team. Saquon Barkley is what kind of kept Minute with 93 yards.
Right.
But when you didn't score any touchdowns, you only had 3 field goals in the whole game. That's pretty sad. That's not just the quarterback play. You can't blame this on Daniel Jones, Tyrod Taylor, when you can't even put up a touchdown with your running game. It has to fall, again, with what we were talking about earlier with other teams, offensive lines.
Yeah. When you have 2 chances within the 10 and you come up with 0 points. When you have the opportunity to drive the ball, but your receivers can't hold onto the ball, you can't say, well, it's the quarterback's fault. No. The quarterback can only do so much. And in this case, Tyrod Taylor did everything he could outside of basically just running the ball his doggone self and catching it himself to bring a victory to the Giants. But, oh well. It's unfortunate, but dims are the breaks, as they say.
And no, I'm not a Browns fan. Neither is Cole. I just like Tyrod Taylor because he came from Virginia Tech, which I'm from Virginia. So watching him play his career there in college and what he's done since, just been a fan of Tyrod Taylor. I feel like he deserved better breaks along the way. And, he deserves to play for a better team than the New York Giants.
And he's also a former Texan, too. So I have an affinity for Tyrod Taylor. And he was a great guy when he was in Houston. And he's just gotten so many bad breaks all across his career, and it's unfortunate. It is gravely unfortunate. But good job, Tyrod. Unfortunately, you couldn't bring the victory home through no fault of your own. Now, we were talking about this game, Drew and I, last night, and this morning, Drew actually said, quote, I would rather watch paint dry, close quote, than watch the Cowboys and Chargers, which the game was not quite bowling shoe ugly, but it was 20-17. The Cowboys won over the Chargers. Dak Prescott, 21 of 30, 272 yards on a touchdown. CD Lamb, he was the star, basically, to me, of the stars, with 7 receptions and 117 yards. For a losing cause, the Chargers defense got 5 sacks on Dak Prescott. And Justin Herbert, 22 of 37, 227 yards, 2 touchdowns. But that pick to Stephon Gilmore at the end of the game messed them up. Oh, boy. The Chargers fall to 2-3. The Cowboys improve to 4-2. Your thoughts on this game?
Even though I would much rather watch paint dry on the wall, I did stay glued to the TV because I just love football that much. And that Stephon Gilmore interception, there was a split second when you first look at it, you thought there's a possibility that he could drop it for just a split second. Even when I watched the replay after I already knew what the results were, I was hoping he'd drop it again, but we already knew what actually happened. Right. Anyway, when it comes to this game right here, besides CD Lamb, you got to look at Dakota Rain Prescott, who was the leading rusher for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, 40 yards on the ground.
Other than that, there really isn't. Yeah, exactly. But there isn't much excitement from this game right here unless you're actually a fan of the Cowboys. Agreed. Because the Chargers, definitely for their fan base, definitely didn't like it for being back and forth the way the game was. It lacked the excitement because when your quarterback is your leading rusher of the game, that means you didn't establish much of a run, and that's why it's as close as what it was. And the Cowboys overall, besides the Eagles in the NFC East, probably have the second best offensive line in the NFC East and one of the great, well, I wouldn't say one of the great, but one of the better offensive lines in the entire NFC and part of the top 10 of offensive lines. So for you to not establish the run with your running back, and you have to establish it with your quarterback, that's red flags to me looking from the outside in for this playoff potential run that they think they're going to go on.
Yeah. In my opinion, and I had a wonderful spirited conversation with a Cowboys fan because he was taking the catastrophe defense, and I'm saying to myself, the offense isn't really great shakes. Defense, oh yes, they have suffered a couple of uppercuts to the chin, but that team is going to go as far as the defense takes them, not as far as their offense is. And you can celebrate all of this, and you can celebrate the fact that they have 26 points per game. But the Cowboys are 16th in total yards on offense. So that means their offense is not getting the job done, buddy. I'm sorry. It just isn't. But they must improve. They cannot look like this and think they're going to win in January. They just won't. There's too many better teams than the Chargers that will take full advantage of them and get them completely out the playoffs. This team isn't ready yet. But at 4-2, they can qualify for not being ready yet. I think that's the best way I can put it. Oh, and here we go. Before we get to the upset of the week, Ryan McCarthy says Monday Night Football was really the battle of who could care less. Shout out to Ben Folds 5. Thank you for that. VLock83 says, all right, here we go yet again. I'm here for more total football talk. And now for the EP of all EPs, Cole Johnson and the big game hunter of Dumpster Pelican, Sensei Drew Willingham. Glad that you're here, brother. Glad that you're here. And now, since we're at the upset of the week, cry, Eagles, cry on the road to misery. Cry, Eagles, cry. Watch Hurts throw an interception. 1, 2, 3. Get them low, get them high, and watch our Eagles cry. Cry, Eagles, cry on the road to misery. IGGLES, Eagles. I know that is not what Eagles fan wants to hear, but they're going to hear it anyway because they took it on the chin and did not have to do so to the New York Jets. Final score was 20-14. The Eagles had a 14-3 lead at one point, and they all second half long. More like the offense and the defense. Garrett Wilson, 8 receptions, 90 yards for the winning Jets. For the losing Eagles, AJ Brown with 7 receptions, 131 yards. Jalen Hurts, 28 of 45 for 280 yards. 1 touchdown and 3 picks. The last of the picks, which is to me the player of the game, Tony Adams, He had an NIT. I think he went 45 yards in the distance of it to set up the game-winning touchdown run by Breece Hall. Your thoughts of this game, sir?
The Jets deserve to lose this game. I'm sorry.
Yes, they did.
I'm sorry, Ryan McCarthy, but they deserve to lose this game. They lost in every statistical category, except for the fact that, they were given the ball 3 times on 3 interceptions by Jalen Hurts that he threw. Other than that, you had no business winning this game. You had more penalties. You had less time of possession. You had less conversions for first downs, as the Eagles had 24 first downs to your 17. Your third down efficiency was 2 of 11, as the Eagles had 7 of 14. Your fourth down efficiency, there was none, didn't exist, as the Jets couldn't even convert on their 1 attempt. When it comes to sacks allowed, you allowed 5 sacks, and you only ran 59 total plays to the Eagles' 69, and you punted the ball 4 times. Penalties, you had 9 of 68 yards. I again repeat that, 9 penalties for 68 total yards. And you had less time of possession. Again, if it wasn't for the interceptions thrown by Jalen Hurts, you wouldn't have won this game. I'm happy for you that you won the game as far as the Jets, man, when it comes to that. But at the same time, when it comes to the Eagles, they should have won this game. They should still be undefeated. However, there is no shoulda, coulda, wouldas when it comes to the game of football. As when it comes to the clock hitting 0 through all end of regulation, definitely matters what the score is at that point. And you were up. They come ugly. They come beautifully at times. This one was definitely one of those ugly ones.
Yeah. And the fact that the Eagles had a stranglehold on this game, and I was talking about this with some friends of mine. I said they're going to screw around and lose this game because they're going to give the Jets one too many chances, and they're going to regret doing it. And they did. They gave the Jets one too many chances, and credit the Jets. They took advantage of those chances and the short fields. They converted some into field goals, and then they converted the big one to a touchdown. So I give you mad credit for that. The Jets, who people wrote off, I'll admit, even I, to a degree, wrote them off as soon as we saw the Achilles heel of Aaron Rodgers go on that same field that they played on this game this past Sunday. But credit the Jets. They now have improved to 3-3 with a -2-game winning streak to boot. The Eagles, well, they fall from undefeated, and now they are 5-1.
And even though the Aaron Rodgers was on the sideline wearing a headset, I don't feel like that gave that much of a spark to the Jets to get the victory, because when you break down the statistical categories of them losing all but the interceptions received, when it comes to that, as they were just given the game. It's very similar to how I was talking about earlier with the Commanders being given the game by the Falcons, with Desmond Ridder having multiple interceptions in the same amount as Hurts did. It seems like in order to give a game away this week by many teams, you got to throw 3 interceptions if you want the other team to win. Because that's what happened in every game. Every game that somebody threw 3 interceptions, the team lost.
Oh, that's true. That's true. And for those who heard my beginning, and I'll actually save that for the next one, because, well, the next one also was
and the game of the week.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we had 2 upsets of the week, but this was the game of the week. The 49ers, 5-0. They traveled to the Rust Belt in Northeastern Ohio to play the Cleveland Browns, who was going to be without Deshaun Watson. And the 49ers were out nerve, unfortunately, because they struggled all game long, and they fell 19-17. Jerome Ford, congratulations to the Browns, the winning Browns. He had 17 carries and 84 yards, a modest effort from him. But he was part of a rushing attack, which I think gives a glimpse to how you can attack the 49ers defensive front, 160 yards rushing. And Amari Cooper on the receiving end, 4 receptions, 108 yards from PJ Walker. So, yes, good job with them. Unfortunately, there isn't really a stat for the 49ers that you could put forth to say, wow, this guy actually played outstanding. They all played subpar. However, they were still in the game, and they still had a lead before before the game-winning field goal was kicked with about a minute or so left. But the 49ers had a 41-yard field goal ready and waiting with under 10 seconds to go to execute. And Jake Moody kicked it and missed it wide right. Your thoughts on this game, sir?
All right, people.
Let me talk to you.
When it comes to this game right here, Cole and I had one great clip that we had from last week where we were talking about his shoulder. Now, we're on the other side of that as we got PJ Walker, who's been the journeyman of football over the past half decade, coming from the NFL to the XFL, the Houston Roughnecks, and then back in the NFL, and now with this team. You didn't trust DTR enough that you had to go grab old Phillip off of waivers, bring him on in to sling the rock around and get you the victory in this game over a team that you had other analysts and fans out there last week getting upset that people were actually giving the Browns a chance to win this game because Brock Purdy hasn't lost a game yet in the regular season. Well, congratulations. You ate a big old slice of humble pie, 49er fans, and the rest of you out there who had the audacity to doubt the legend of PJ. Because the J stands for juiced. He was juiced up and ready for the moment as PJ came to Cleveland, ready to shine. 18 of 34 for a whopping 192 yards and 2 interceptions. He was not the player of the game, but I just hyped him up as I was going to say that he was. But his leadership definitely has to account for something. Gotta give him something with that. Jerome Ford, 17 carries, 84 yards. But the big presence on the offense, like Cole was alluding to, was Amari Cooper, as he only had 4 receptions for 108 yards. When I look at that, though, it doesn't put a staple or hold a candle up to the flame when it comes to the defensive production by the Browns. The Browns to hold the 49ers, who have been on fire this season and a good portion of last year, to 17 points. You got to give the credit to the Browns defense and what they did in this past game. I was happy to see it. I'm happy for the Browns, their fans, to have a winning record at this point after everything they've been through over the past few seasons, let alone their entire franchise history. You got to give it to the Browns, and this has got to be a huge boost for them, knowing they just beat an unbeaten this past week.
Yeah, and to further stamp your point, the 49ers offense just been running rush out of everybody. The Browns defense held that offense to 215 total yards of offense. That is not easy to do. And yes, and they brought the pain because they knocked Deebo Samuel out the game. They knocked Christian McCaffrey out the game. And for a couple of plays, they knocked Trent Williams, yes, the big-time left tackle for the 49ers, knocked him out the game. So the 49ers felt the Browns putting the physicality on them all game long. And Brock Purdy, he was feeling it too. He was feeling it.
And we were just talking last week about the impact Trent Williams has been making on that team since coming over from Washington. You and I both were just talking about it. And we weren't trying to jinx you out there, old man, because we didn't want you to get hurt. But unfortunately, that happened, and that took a big impact on the way this production happened from the 49ers for the rest of that game.
It did. It did. It did. So and you mentioned it, the Browns, they approved a 3-2. So yeah, congrats that you all could cheer for a team that's actually going that far northeastern Ohio. I know you love your Browns. I know, because I know a couple of Browns fans. The 49ers, they fall to 5-1. And now they are one of 5 teams to be there at 5-1. And before we wrap up opening drive, to those who actually believe that Jalen Hurts and Brock Purdy are trash quarterbacks because of one bad game,
Stop it. Get some help.
Absolutely. Because, I might have served up a little bit of humble pie just a second ago to those out there who are a little overzealous, okay? However, it's not a result of a play of anybody being trash. Everybody has a bad game. In the NFL, it can go either way any Sunday, Monday, or Thursday whenever there's a game on the TV, okay?
Yeah.
Or that you're there. A team that's 0-16 can go into week 18 with the 17th game and get that last win of the season, get that first win of the year.
First win of the year.
We've seen it happen time in and time again at other points of the year. And other times we've seen teams that have been undefeated up to a certain point and lose a game. And it just happened to be this past weekend, the two only undefeated teams left in the league happened to lose. So it doesn't mean that the quarterback play is trash. It doesn't mean that the team's trash. It means they just had a bad day and the other team stepped up to the moment.
That's right. That's exactly what it means. 100%, sir. That's exactly what it means.
I'm still going to throw shade sometimes. But other than that, because it's all in fun. Okay,
throw the shade.
I have to when I talk about a 1-7 sometimes. Okay,
look, throw the shade because I saw some 49ers fans saying, "Well, the referees they had the audacity to have us lose this game. They stole this game from us." No, your kicker did.
It sounds like they were studying what the Philadelphia Eagles fans were saying after the last Super Bowl.
You're right. I'm like, forget the referees. Your kicker, Jake Moody, had a 41-yard field goal with under 10 seconds to go, and your team down by 2 to make, and he shanked the kick. That is where you lost the game, not the referees. So you can just take those excuses and go from here to there with them because, Coach Prime.
Ain't nobody care. Who cares? Ain't nobody care.
And if you don't learn from your mistakes in the actual regular season, which this is actually could be a blessing in disguise for the kicker and the special teams and the team all around. If you don't learn in these small moments like these during the regular season, I'd much rather it happen right now and you learn from it than get to the NFC Championship and you do the exact same thing at the end of the game and then you're back to square one. If you learn from it right now in week 6, by the time you get to these high pressure moments in the postseason, you should be good to go, in my opinion.
Yeah, ask the 1998 Minnesota Vikings, who Gary Anderson didn't miss a field goal all year long until the fourth quarter of the NFC Championship game, and they did not advance to the Super Bowl.
Wasn't it multiple seasons that he hadn't missed a field goal or something? I knew it was that entire season, but wasn't it multiple seasons, like 2 or 3 seasons straight? It was wild.
Yeah, I think the last miss he had was like sometime in 1986.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's why that stat right there is wild. But yeah, it can happen any given Sunday out there. So for those of you who are quick to jump the gun and throw too much shade, there's different. You got to find that median right there. Throw a little shade, but don't step over the line. And some of you stepped over the line this past weekend. When you're talking about trash quarterback plays and, that's why you got a Mr. Irrelevant as your quarterback. He played like a Mr. Irrelevant. Well, there's first round, number 1 overall draft picks that have played worse than Brock Purdy. I'm not trying to stick up for him but so much, but just saying you can have one bad game every now and then. As long as you learn from it and you grow, it's okay.
Well, the guy that was supposed to be in his spot that he drafted the year before, he's sitting on the bench on some other's team. And he was drafted number 3 overall in that draft. Trey Lance, anybody?
Doing absolutely nothing except for holding a clipboard and getting somebody's coffee when they need it.
And he couldn't be a proper spy for the Cowboys. We'll be right back.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On 2. Ready? Ready.
We're just getting started. Total Football Talk will return right after this.
Everything Boston. I love you morons. New Kids on the Block, New Edition.
Dear whatever the law firm is. Sincerely, the U.S. Supreme Court.
Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. Go yourself again, Jason.
Ready to hang with some fellas who know football? Let's ride. LC Muscles 28.
I think they're the most overrated defense in the league.
Steel Sermon.
We did not trail for a single second.
Tiny Tim.
McCarthy is a bonehead.
A Pizzle 90.
I'm going with my boys. Fins up, baby.
Get ready for the Four Horsemen of Peckham's. Every Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central on YouTube. Poppy J.
You got the option to cry for the government. You got the option to protest. You got the option to keep buying. But this is also an option.
Wise El Jefe.
We're the first tech geeks. We're the first gamers. We're the first everything. Everything. Like Gen X's, we are the ones.
BS3 Network proudly presents the crew from the New York boroughs who never wants that smoke. Nah, they want that fire. Poppy J and Wise El Jefe, Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. Check your local listings for your viewing and listening pleasure.
Welcome back to Total Football Talk with Drew Willingham. I am Cole Johnson. Quickly to the feedback zone before we do go onward. VLock83 says, Mr. McCarthy, or Ryan, I applaud you on that one, talking about the Cry Eagles Cry theme. He says it was funny. And he also says good morning, or should say good afternoon to you, oh wise man. And Big Teddy, he says, look, it was like the Super Bowl last year. The Eagles were up in that game, and they gave the game away. Yeah, thank you. VLock83 says, Cleveland shot a lot of people. Look, I'm not going to speak for Drew, but I think this is true for him too. Yep. They shot me. I did not think, not necessarily defensively they had it like that. I didn't think the offense was going to not have as, I figured the offense was going to give the game away, but they didn't. And that's what shocked me more than anything. Yes, they did have their INTs and they did have their mistakes, but I thought it was going to be a key mistake they make late that was going to cost them the game.
Out of the two upsets, the Jets would have been more believable with their defense and with what they got all around Zach Wilson. Not Zach Wilson leading them to the victory, but the team leading Zach Wilson to the victory is what happened in that game.
Right.
But yeah, definitely with the Browns, that was more of a shocker out of the two upsets, in my opinion, as well. I agree.
And then our brother, our friend Ike Dawson, he says, I love your commercials. Thank you, Ike. I totally appreciate it.
Speaking of that, Ike brings that up every time in that first commercial back that you just played. When I hear you say LC Muscles, I start losing it. Like that name, and in the way Cole says it, it's like Ric Flair bringing a tear to my eye.
In my eye. It's the greatest. No, let me joke. Because heck, I'm a huge Ric Flair fan, so I could be on this show doing Ric Flair promos all day and night long. Man, but thank you, Ike. I totally appreciate it. Put forth the hard work. So does Drew, and hopefully we try to make the commercials as entertaining as the content here as well, because there's some quality shows and they deserve to have the platform of having good commercials for their good product. Because we do appreciate all of them as much as humanly possible. And with that, we go to the Gridiron Scoop. Okay, from the Make This Make Sense category, Jonathan Taylor, and I think we hinted at it last week, but we'll talk a little bit more about it in full now. He actually signed on the dotted line to a multiple-year extension to stay with the Colts, and his desire was to be a Colt and to retire as a Colt. But I'm almost at a loss for thought to even try to set this up properly, because all I can think of is him being utterly disrespected by everybody in the organization, all the way up to Jim Irsay, the owner of the team, in saying, well, hey, he can just basically get it off the glass. He can get whatever deal he needs because that's just the market of the running backs. we ain't gonna be forking all that money to them. He's going to get what the market bears. But when he found out that when he wanted to trade for, or when he honored the request of Jonathan Taylor to seek a trade, he was understanding that when he was asking for in return was much higher than the get it off the glass response of, well, whatever deal you get is the deal you get. So my question to you, and I'm happy with Jonathan Taylor getting his deal, but my question to you is this: it's sort of is two-pronged with a sarcastic fling at somebody in general. Besides Jim Irsay needing to keep his trap shut, what does this say for running backs in the future? And I mean the deal that Jonathan Taylor got.
It seems like if you apply the pressure, you get what you want. Because 3 years, $42 million contract extension, all that drama paid off for him. But he was stirring the pot quite a bit in this past offseason. There was a lot of Jonathan Taylor talk about this contract. Is he going to play? What is he going to do? All this other stuff that was going on. And, that usually can bring down a franchise. Luckily, the Colts have played better than what they played last year, considering everything that's been going on around them. You got a new head coach. You got, the running back situation going on. You're trying to develop a quarterback. He gets hurt. And you got Uncle Rico coming in. There's a lot of moving parts going on here in Indianapolis. Yeah. So for running backs of the future, I feel like, as long as you do it the right way, which there's some questionable parts to what Jonathan Taylor and his representatives did to make this happen, I feel like it does set a little bit more of a precedent of, maybe you do have to be a little bit more vocal and not just take it on the chin all the time, because like you were saying, it's either you take what we give you or you test the market and see what the market gives you, because at the end of this season, his contract was going to expire. He only had, through this season or he's gone. So the Colts either needed to make a deal before the season ended, or if they took a chance on letting him go to free agency, they may not have came out on the winning side of that. And we've seen other teams in the past that try to gamble with the fire right there and lose. And then that player goes and has a great second part of their career with another team. So I feel like they prevented that from happening. But the running backs of the future, I feel like with what Jonathan Taylor did, it helps raise the value a little bit. Just a little bit, not by much, not by as much as what they were hoping for. When you got Zeke out there, he was trying to get the money that he was getting for all those years while he was in Dallas, and then finally getting humbled when he got cut and then having to go to New England. So there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to that. There's some positive and some negative that comes out of this situation, but I feel like it's a little bit more positive for the running back in this case.
Yeah, and I think the position needed to have this happen because for the importance that the position has and holds, the fact that the owners are willing to league-wide disrespect the position by basically paying it the least was ridiculously insulting. So I'm glad that someone was finally was able to say, well, no, you need to come up with some more money and stop being afraid that, if you give us the first big time NFL deal, that we'll basically be a crippled person by the end of the first year of the deal. No, come off of this because we are important to the team. And they needed to have this happen. So I'm happy that Jonathan Taylor did that, not just for him, but I think for the running back market in general. And I'm talking about with Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs, to name a few, because that was just unfair to him. And thank you, Big Tater Bear. Appreciate that, brother.
That's Mick.
It's Mick. Oh, Mick. Sorry about that. Thank you, Mick. Appreciate the love, brother, as always. But yeah, it's just ridiculous, man. That owners need to do better than that. So the 49ers, they suffered their first defeat this past Sunday. We talked about that a few minutes ago. But it was also not just the L they took on the field. They took a couple of L's leading them off of it. One of them being wide receiver Deebo Samuel. the other being running back extraordinaire Christian McCaffrey. Debo Samuel, he suffered a shoulder injury. I'm sorry. And Christian McCaffrey, he suffered an oblique and rib injury. Both the injuries were significant enough that neither player returned once they went to the locker rooms. Now, following the game, Kyle Shanahan said he was unsure of the extent of both injuries, but he said further testing would be done in the course of the week. Now, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Debo's shoulder is day to day, and I think they said that McCaffrey dodged a bullet, but we'll see with them. My question to you is this: between Debo and Christian, which of the two players can the 49ers not afford to lose for lengthy periods of time?
McCaffrey. McCaffrey, without a doubt, because, things didn't really open up for the receivers as well until they brought in McCaffrey last year. They had a lot of, potential to do the things that they've done with getting to the NFC Championship game and, potentially moving past that to the Super Bowl or whatnot at other points. Like, they have that type of team. Now they have McCaffrey. But when you look at the receiving core, Debo Samuel, I mean, he's one of their top touted wide receivers, right? But since bringing back Brandon Ayuk's been producing more at the receiver position than Debo has, because Debo's a dual threat because you can have him run too. So it mixes things up. But even in this past game, Debo only had 2 carries for 11 yards. So and that was before we're getting hurt. And of course, that did affect, the other plays that he would have got throughout the rest of that game. But McCaffrey, everything runs around McCaffrey at this point, it seems like, because we talk about dual threat. He is also a receiving back too. So looking at that, establishing the run through him is what helps this team set the tone for the rest of that game to get the winning streak and all these wins that they've had under Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy would not have the success that he has had since taking over the starting job if it wasn't for having McCaffrey in there behind him in the backfield. So looking at all that, Debo's day-to-day, and McCaffrey, you said, dodged a bullet, but still, you can't afford to be without McCaffrey that long if you want to continue on with this greatness that you guys have seen out of San Francisco the past couple seasons.
And along with that, and I love the point you brought out in terms of saying McCaffrey's success is actually tied to Purdy's. Purdy seems to be settled down by McCaffrey's success on the field. Like, if he gets going, Purdy seems to play within himself, and you can almost ask him to do anything and he'll succeed in doing it. But would you throw number 23 off the field, or you throw 23 off his game, then Purdy seems to be a little more rattled. So I think that is the key to me of the 49ers, period, offensively and defensively. Because, of course, if McCaffrey's cooking, that means the defense stays off the field and they can be rested. But if not, we saw what happens, because that's what happened Sunday. So, yes, I agree with you. McCaffrey is the more important cog to this wheel, even though Debo Samuel is a big, important cog to the 49ers too. I totally agree with that. We talked earlier about the injury that Jimmy Garoppolo suffered, which was his back, and he was not carted off. He walked off the field in the third quarter of that game. And I should say walked off the field, I should say, at the end of the second quarter. The quarterback was in an ambulance, and he left for the hospital to be checked out, and ended up being confirmed as a back injury. The coach of the team, Josh McDaniels, not so good of a coach, but again, this is not soapbox theater. He said that he did not have an update on Garoppolo's condition, though he acknowledged the QB leaving the stadium. But the precautionary tests were indeed taken to err on the side of caution. And I think the Raiders also dodged a bullet in the preliminary tests that came out of it. My question to you is this. Now, this is first major injury in the regular season for the Raiders, his Raiders stint. The 49ers stint was marred with a few injury stints. when do you think, or do you think it is time for Mr. Garoppolo to call it quits?
It's heading that way. And I mean, the Raiders definitely knew what they were signing up for when they brought in Jimmy G because of his history with his injuries. He hasn't been the most consistent on the field. I think out of all his years as a starter, he's only had 1 year where he's played all the games, if that. If that. And I was thinking about that earlier. I didn't get a chance to fact check before we went live. So if anybody has a chance to look that up, let us know here in the comments if he has played all 16 games before we went to 17 games in the season, because that still counts to me as playing an entire season. So when it comes to this right here, you haven't even gotten through the halfway point of the season, and this isn't the first time you've been banged up this year either. You've been banged up at other points in the season. This is the first, severe situation that we've seen from Jimmy G this year. But the Raiders are a team that cannot afford to have their number one quarterback go down. And we've seen this before when Derek Carr was the quarterback. Whenever he went down, the team just went even worse down the hole than what they were at before. It was Derek Carr keeping them afloat. We're seeing Jimmy G not even being able to fill Derek Carr's shoes at this point with the way the Raiders are playing this year. So if this back injury is a little bit worse than what they're alluding to, if it's something that he can't bounce back from this year and he's out the rest of the year, it's time to hang it up. If you're on the IR the rest of this year for that back injury, that means it's time. Your back is, besides your legs, is one of your most important parts of your body, besides your brain, because everything, your whole foundation, the structure goes through your back. Okay. So, and your skeletal stuff and all that stuff, not trying to bring health and all that stuff into this, but that's basically what it is. So if you got a bad back and you're trying to play football, and sciatica and all that plays an effect to it too. If you got into it too, because someone who has sciatica right here, I can tell you that it's not fun. Okay.
No, it's not fun at all.
So those when nerves get pinched, oh yeah, it is not fun. It affects your legs. It affects everything, and especially on those real cold days. And you're trying to play quarterback out there on a really cold day, and you got your sciatic nerve acting up that day.
And
you might as well
hit in that area.
Nope. You might as well hang it up and give it to QB2 at that point, because if you got this bad of a back injury right now at this point, you might as well let the next man up. And it was Aiden O'Connell's backup. Is that his name? Aiden something. I can't remember his name or whatnot. That was the backup or whatnot. For the
the backup for Sunday was actually Brian Hoyer.
Okay, because they got him on there, but they threw the younger kid out there before, and I think that's
they did. They did.
We already saw there wasn't enough coming from that situation right there, and Brian Hoyer didn't do enough to keep things rolling, rock and roll, except for they did get the victory because Jimmy G set the tone in there. But you can't always guarantee it if Brian Hoyer starts next week. Okay.
Right.
So at this point in the year, depending on how severe the news is, what's the actual report with that too? Like, that's one thing I didn't get a chance to look at before we went live. What is the actual report on Jimmy G for his back? Like, is it disc related, muscular? What is it?
That I did not read either. But when he was clutching his back, it seemed like it was lower the way he was clutching it.
And that's not a good sign.
No.
And because again, especially when it comes to like your glute area and the stuff that affects like your lower half of your body, that's not something that you can play around with when it comes to back injuries. And if it's something that they tell him, like, Jimmy, like, you can go back this year, but you might as well rest up the rest of this year, because you take one wrong hit and it's all over. But and I'm not just saying football career. I'm just saying,
life. Quality of life.
Quality of life. Partial paralysis, whatever the case may be, because you don't know until you're on the other side of viewing those x-rays, and MRIs and all that stuff, CAT scans, everything else that's involved with health checks of this magnitude. But I can at least tell you, from someone who used to do physical work back in the day, who's got sciatica as a result of it, that's not something that you play around with. Like, every single day I'm doing stretches for 10 to 15 minutes, the foam roller, all sorts of stuff to straighten it out to where I can just sit in a chair with you for 3 hours. Okay. Because sitting down for long periods of time isn't great for sciatica.
It's a chore. Yeah, it's a chore.
So there's we take commercial breaks. Certain points I'll stand up if it's starting to tighten up a little bit. Most of the time I'm good to go. But if I don't get that rolling section in, a heating pad session every now and then, in chiropractor and all that stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy, you might have just signed yourself up for a different part of your life that you were not privy to until this past weekend.
Oh man, I hate to hear that. And
that changes things up.
It does. Yeah, it does. And to your earlier question, he did complete 2019. He played all 16 games that year, and he played 15 games in the 2021 season. Of course, that was not all of the games they played, but he had those two as glaring understandings of he played that many games in the season. The rest of them, well, he did play 11 last year, but the rest of them, we're talking like 6, 3, 6, 5. It's pretty much that.
I mean, 15 is respectable, but still, out of your entire starting career. And that's why I knew it was only one. I just couldn't remember which season it was.
It was the Super Bowl season 2019 for them.
Out of all your years that you have played as a starting quarterback now, it's been several years now at this point, and you only have 1 year where you completed all 16 games, and the Vegas Raiders shelled out the amount of money they did for you. That just goes to show what poor investment this is at this point of the year. You're not even through the halfway point of the year, and we're already talking about Jimmy G potentially needing to call it quits. That's sad.
Well, in terms of investment in the Raiders, we are talking about bowl cut. Shout out to you pulling a 26-year-old woman at 68, but dude, we know that you trick off money like you are in a strip club, sir.
That's all it is. That's all it is that money right there. He's buying the ladies. If he can go up in there and do the Cole Johnson, hey girl, do that with the money in hand. Oh, you know he's reeling in the 26-year-old honeys up there with that money.
Oh my gosh.
Total Football Talk.
Oh yeah, where my dogs at? Oh yeah. It is time now to award the grand champ for week 6 of the 2023 NFL season. And for Drew's choice, go right ahead, sir.
No, I felt bad for not picking him recently. And I feel like I have to, at the rate of what this man is doing, playing video game every single week. I have to give it to Tyreek Hill. Every single week, it seems like you're watching some nerd play a game of Madden on your TV screen. And very good at it, except for it is a real human body. As Tyreek Hill had 6 receptions for 163 yards and a touchdown against the Panthers, averaging 27.2 yards per reception. And for the entire season, he's averaging a little over 19 yards per reception, like 19.4 yards per reception. Okay. It is absolutely crazy. Averaging, he's got 6 touchdowns so far in the regular season. He's averaging 1 touchdown a game. It's hard enough just to get 1 for the entire season. This guy's got 6 so far. He could have over 20 touchdowns in a season and potentially over 2,000 receiving yards at this point. I would be an absolute fool and be expecting you to give me a drug test if I didn't give it to Tyreek Hill this week based on overlooking him in the past. And I think I only gave him the dog of the week like once this entire season. That's on me. Going forward, he keeps playing like this. I have no choice but to give it to Tyreek Hill.
Good choice. Good choice. I agree with you. The man could actually get to 1,000 yards for the season next week. Goodness gracious. Or next game. Goodness gracious. Ooh. Yeah, you're right. He's playing Madden-like video game worthy wide receiver this year. It sounded like he was right saying that Tua was a good quarterback, maybe not better than Patrick Mahomes, but sounds like he's good. Dude keeps giving him the ball often. And speaking of a dude that's slinging it, and this is sort of like an award that I'm giving to the team, but I'm doing it to their leader, and that is Jared Goff. He threw for over 300 yards this week. He has played steady, assured, strong offensive quarterbacking play for the Lions, and they are now at a stretch where they have only lost 3 games in the last 16 they have played. So we're talking 13-3 ever since they started off 1-6 to begin the 2022 season, and they have been 13-3 since. The guy number 16, who's pulling the trigger and calling the signals for the Lions, he, along with his head coach Dan Campbell, are at the head of the class in making this resurgence happen. The team is responding to him. The team loves him. The team, you could tell, is being led by him. They're being led right by him. He seems to care for the club, and he seems to have their best interest, and he seems to know when to make the right plays to the right players, and everybody has a hand in the action. And that's all you can ask in a quarterback, is to make everybody feel as though they're a part of the team, because it makes them buy more into what the whole collective is doing. Jared Goff is doing his job. So congratulations to you, sir. It is sort of a nod to the whole team of the Lions, but you, sir, lead it. And at 5-1, and one of the 5 teams that have this record, which is the best in NFL, you, sir, do deserve this honor, because you are being a straight up dog, and you have been for the last calendar year. We'll be right back.
Coming up next, the featured attractions. This is Total Football Talk. Comey Media Incorporated, creating content magic in the real world.
Yeah. But hey, that was last year, and what did he do? He was out.
Right, and now he's in.
But he's been out for an entire year. It's not, you can't think he's going to make the same impact that he did before he was suspended.
I'm telling you, he won't have to.
What?
See how
Is he going to keep his phone down and not make bets?
Come
on, man.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, look. Hey, stop playing games. Y'all already know. Go ahead and toss him some Willie Bucks. Ain't nobody playing around. Hey, $sign DWillie87. Go ahead and hit him up on the Cash App and go ahead and give him some Willie Bucks. Look at Drew looking stoic, ladies and gentlemen. Stoic on that $10 bill. So go ahead, slide my man over some Willie Bucks, and we good. That's all I'm saying. We good. Some Willie Bucks.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
If you're looking for a sports program that gives you the flavor.
Washington Commanders? Really?
This whole thing stinks to high heaven.
That pulls no punches.
Thuggish act by a thuggish actor.
That gives you some humor.
Praise everything LeBron does and never criticize it.
If you want a show that gives you good times, then this is that show. BS3 Network proudly presents.
I am Cole Johnson, and welcome to
Cole Sports with a Z. Every Friday on Patreon, and every Saturday on YouTube, Spreaker, and all other outlets.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Welcome back to Total Football Talk with Drew Willingham. I am Cole Johnson. And Mick says, look, Pat McAfee said that there are rumors around the league saying Rex Ryan will replace Vance Joseph as the defensive coordinator for the Broncos. Should that happen? Yeah, I think it will. Look, Rex is chomp at the bit to want to run a defense, and anything will probably be a better answer than Vance Joseph right now, because unfortunately he has coached his way probably out of the league, which is unfortunate.
The thing with Rex Ryan though is he's been removed from football for so long now. Like,
That's true.
He's been sitting behind the desk and giving his take on stuff. The last time he was in the league was when he was the head coach of the Jets, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
So, or wait, no, did he go to the Bills after the Jets?
Oh, that's right. That's right. He did.
Yeah, he went to the Bills. He went to the Bills for a little bit, but that's still been over 5 years
that's still a
since
long
he was
time
last
ago,
in the league.
Mhm.
And football has changed, in the past 5 years. Some schematic parts of it's changed. I don't know if Rex Ryan would be able to keep up with today's flow of it. I mean, his brother's out of the league now, isn't he? Isn't Rob out the league now? The last time Rob was in the league, he was playing. I mean, he was coaching for the formerly known as the REDSKINS. So when I look at this right here, Rob's been out of the league now. I'm looking at it right now. Oh, my apologies. He's a senior defensive assistant for the Las Vegas Raiders. But again, that doesn't tell me that the Ryans deserve to be running a defense. Okay. If Rex wants to get from behind the desk and be an assistant, by all means, go right ahead. But when you've been out of the league since 2018, 2016, the last time he was the head coach of the Bills was in 2016. Just looked it up. So it is now, by next year, it will be 8 seasons since you were a part of the NFL, and you want to come back and run a defense. You think that after 8 years of just talking behind the desk that you can do better than Vance Joseph? I don't think so, because it's not like your teams. The only thing that you were really famously known for was going to the AFC Championship 2 years in a row with butt fumble and losing. Okay. So other than that, you do that and you go to the Buffalo Bills and they don't do much in your 2 seasons as a head coach there. What makes you think in your entitled little mind that you are ready to come back and be a defensive coordinator for the Denver Broncos, that I don't care if you get Jesus Christ himself, you are not going to get better on that defensive side if you want to bring in somebody else like Rex Ryan, who's been gone for 8 years? It's not going to work. This team needs a complete overhaul, and it starts with the quarterback.
Yeah, and I think he's gone at the end of the year. This is sort of reminiscent of Mike Nolan. I mean, he did a bang-up job with the Dolphins and did a pretty good job with the Falcons for turn it over to Dan Quinn. But then after 2014, he left. And then he came back as the defense coordinator for the Cowboys 2020. And he was in charge of the 32nd ranked defense in the league. Basically, a lot of people were saying, oh, well, the game has passed him by. And that one season was the only season he was the defensive coordinator of the Cowboys. They let him go. They put Dan Quinn in his place. Now the defense is much better. But yeah, I think your point is well served right there. Because in that 6-year span, the game changed a lot. So yeah, you're right. And I think that's what Sean Payton is probably realizing too, even though his span was shorter.
It was only one season.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was in between it for one season, and even that was long enough. If anything, he should look at that as an example. My head coach that I'm going to go work for was only out of the league for a year, and he's having the struggles that he's having after being gone 1 year. And I've been gone now for 8 seasons almost. And you think that you can come in and change this defense around? I'm sorry. You do not have that kind of stroke like that there, Rex Ryan. Let's be real about that.
No, you need the horses. And besides Patrick Surtain, I don't think you have too many of them. And maybe Bradley Chubb. Outside of those two, forget about it. Ugh. Anyway, let's get to the featured attractions. All right, if you're new to the show, this is where we feature 3 games of the week, and we separate them from the rest. And the first one would be, you would think, well, Cole, maybe this isn't a featured attraction type of game, as the Chargers travel to Arrowhead to play the Chiefs. The Chiefs are favored by 5.5. And the reason why I selected this as a featured attraction game, normally the games in LA are real close. And yes, I did say this game is in Arrowhead. The last 2 Arrowhead games have been decided by less than a field goal or less, you should say. 30-29 2 years ago in Arrowhead, that was the Chargers beating the Chiefs, and 27-24, the Chiefs beating the Chargers. So when these two teams play, they play very close, tough games. Kickoff is at 4:25 p.m. in the Missouri city of KC. Let's start with the Chargers first. I love Brandon Staley. I think he is the patron saint of coaching. I think the sun rises and sets on him. I don't think there's anything that he can do wrong in the coaching profession. If you believe that any of that, then son, I got some land in Manhattan that I can sell you. Come on, man. This man needs to hear so fast it makes anybody's head spin. But my question to you about the Chargers: do you think the players can overcome, and not just Staley, but any other coaching too, deficiencies they have on the team? Unfortunately, I cannot read mouths.
I don't know how that. I didn't even click mute. I don't even know how that happened. Okay. StreamYard messing with me again. So let's try this again from the top.
Go ahead, sir.
My man doesn't know how to read mouths, and neither do I. So I can't fault him for that. When it comes to this right here in the question that Cole asked me, I feel like they can overcome this, but not this week. Not this week. Not against the Chiefs.
I feel you.
They came close to doing it against the Cowboys.
They did.
But you're playing a much more high caliber team in the Kansas City Chiefs, who are the defending Super Bowl champions, who've won like 2 out of the last 3 or 4 Super Bowls.
Okay? For the last 4.
So when you look at that as a whole, and they've been to more than just those
3 of the
Super
last
Bowls.
4. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you look at that and you put all that together, that's really tough battle to win right there. When you look at that and what's on the other side of the football. So regardless of how good or how bad your coaching is, you're trying to overcome deficiencies. I don't think you're going to be able to do it this week against the Chiefs. There are other teams remaining on this schedule where I feel like you have an opportunity to do that, but it doesn't start this week. They are doing a better job than what they did when they first started out the first couple of weeks. Because I was throwing shade for the first 2 to 3 weeks of this show about that Chargers team. Now I'm starting to come around a little bit more on them, and they're doing a little bit better of a job. But I still, even though Brandon Staley's a nice guy, and he might be a respectable person out here in the streets for us to have a conversation about, or a conversation with, when it comes to running that organization, I just don't have high hopes for him as the head coach after this season. We've already seen enough red flags coming from his time as the head coach there. Justin Herbert, with the talent that he is, deserves a lot better than the leadership that he's got right now.
He does.
So with your question right there, I feel like Herbert and the team can, just not this week.
Yeah, I agree with you. And there's a colleague of mine who actually says that same thing too. He says, look, Justin Herbert, he's getting wasted. And I agree with him. I think Staley is not doing me any favors. And yeah, he may be a great guy and he may be a great NFL guy, but he's not a good fit for the Chargers. He just is not. Now, on the other side of the ball and the other sideline of this game, the Chiefs are 5-1, and they have, ever since that their opening day loss to the Lions, have reeled off 5 straight. 4 of them with Taylor Swift attending. Now, I'm not going to ask a question about Taylor Swift, but what I am going to ask is the question that I think I am seeing with this team, especially with last Thursday's game and maybe the game beforehand, the previous Sunday against the Vikings. It looks like the Chiefs put it a little bit in cruise control. So do you think they do put it in cruise control a little too much?
It's appearing that way, but I feel like they're doing it to play it safe in some aspects, because they already know that the way that this team is built, they're going to run away with the division, and they're going to more than likely be the number 1 seed again in the AFC. So if you put it in cruise control, especially if you're at a comfortable point in the game to do so, you limit the possibilities of there being an injury out there to your starting 11 that are going out there on the field. So if you're putting some of your backups in and you're going on cruise control and you're taking it easy and you're playing it safe in some of these cases, then I understand that. But I don't think they're putting it on cruise control to show others like the Swifties out there how it's done out here on the field and to try to set a major tone when it comes to that out here. I feel like that Andy Reid is just realizing that he's got players, they're getting older. They're not as springy as they were 5 years ago. And he wants to keep as much life in his players and keep this special thing going as long as possible, because it only takes one wrong shot and your career is completely changed from that point forward. So I think he's seen that from some of his star players he's had in the past, and not only the Chiefs, but when he was a head coach of the Eagles and when he was assistant coaches on other teams like the 49ers and stuff in the past. He's seen enough working under Holmgren and all the other players and stuff, or when he was part of the Packers as well. When he's been a part of all these different teams that's had legendary players, stars, Hall of Famers, and has had years to think about all this stuff. If he's at a comfortable point in the game to put it in cruise control, if there's anybody else out there in the league who's managing that, I trust Andy Reid and his vision when it comes to that.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. And to buffer your point, the Chiefs are coming off of playing late into January, 5 straight seasons. So if they would do it again, it would be consecutive season number 6 that they will go deep into January, at least deep into January.
And to add another layer to your point, off sport for a second, but we've seen it with load management in basketball. Like LeBron, for many years, there's 8 years where he was like in the finals every year. It finally caught up to him. And we've been talking about that for the past couple of years. We don't want to see that transition over to a game that's already physical enough as it is. It's not as physical as it used to be because, again, for the airwaves, they've pacified things when it comes to certain rules. But when you think about it, they still take hard enough shots as it is, and you have to protect them as much as possible, and especially when you're paying them the kind of money like $500 million like Patrick Mahomes is getting, and he deserves it for the things that he does out there and for what he gives back to Kansas City and Missouri and everything. But you still have to protect your investment, because what good is all that money you're paying somebody if they can't produce on the field because you didn't take the moments like these to protect him?
Good point. That's a really good point. So you already put your prediction in. You say the Chiefs is going to take it, which I agree. I am with you. The Chargers are the only team to me in that division that seems to give the Chiefs a game. And I think they will give a tougher effort against them when they again play in LA. In Arrowhead, I think the Chiefs will have an easier, but I won't say easy. They'll have an easier time with the Chargers. And also to your earlier point, the Chiefs already have a 2-game lead over the Raiders, and they haven't even played them yet. So the chances of them actually sowing this division before we get into the middle part of December, or maybe even the beginnings of December, are very real, because they are a tough team, especially in the American Football Conference Western Division. All right, to the next game. And this one, I think, is the one that I'm looking forward to the most. The Lions at 5-1, they are traveling to Baltimore to play the Ravens at 4-2. Now, the Ravens are the home favorites at 2.5. Kickoff is at 1 p.m. on Sunday. And let me look at the Lions first. So we talked about the Chiefs. The Lions' most impressive victory still to this day, actually, is against the Chiefs in Arrowhead. They're only one bad quarter away from being undefeated at 6-0. But, of course, they did lose to the Seahawks in overtime, 37-31. Besides that quarter, which I think was like the third quarter of that game, besides that quarter, the Lions have actually been playing really solid. Now, should the 49ers and Eagles now worry about the Lions?
Yes, like absolutely. The way, and especially when you see Dan Campbell's message at the end of that game the other day with the $5 bill and Abraham Lincoln, and seeing the team get, hyped up as they were, based on that. And you can tell that he provides a huge spark to this team and has for the past couple of years. We've been talking about the rise of the Lions. The fact that a lot of, expert insiders have got this team inside the top 5 and inside the top 3. I was talking about it earlier. The 49ers and Eagles should be blanking their pants right now because their reign of going to the NFC Championship and potentially having an easier ride to the Super Bowl, or at least an easier ride to the championship game, is now over when you got to face a team like the Lions. It doesn't mean this team that's playing like this through 6 weeks is going to play like this when we get to the first round of the playoffs, because a lot can happen through the next 2/3 of the season. Weather and all that, and the way the conditions of things play a factor in the way games go at times too. So when I think about all that, the Lions are a threat right now, currently on this day, October 17th of 2023. But 2 months from now, when you and I have this conversation in December, we could have a totally different answer. But in this moment right now, the Eagles and 49ers should be worried about the Lions.
Now, remember, last year they started off the season 1-6, and they were on the doorstep to a playoff bid when we turned the calendar to January. So, yeah, I agree with you. The conversation could be totally different, but yeah, as of now, I agree. I think the Eagles and the 49ers should be when it comes to the Lions, because they're on the come up, and they're coming from behind them, and they ain't sneaking up on them. They're gonna try to bowl them over. Now, on the other side, the Ravens, if I can give you one word that I can say about them, unimpressive, I think is the word. I want to think that this team is one that could be one of the dark horses to upset the Bills or the Chiefs. They probably could if they catch the Bills on an off day. They now can probably say that they can basically upset the apple cart of the Bengals, who they have won the AFC North the last couple of years and have been to the AFC Championship game the last couple of years and went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. And they handled the Bengals earlier this year. So we came into the season with thinking that it was going to be a triumph in the AFC, of it being the Chiefs, Bills, and Bengals, with the possibility of the Jets basically playing spoiler to any of the three. Now it looks like it might be the Ravens, but they seem unimpressive. But what must they do, though, to take control of the AFC North?
They got to step it up a little bit when it comes to their offensive production, because Lamar Jackson, the amount of money that he just was crying about getting during the offseason, he hasn't earned what he's getting paid right now. And some people are going to probably, throw some shade at me for saying that, but that's how I feel. Like, when you're throwing for 223 yards in the game against the Titans, and then, the game before that, you're only throwing for 236 yards against a Kenny Pickett-led Steelers. And then the game before that, you're throwing for 186 yards against the Browns, which, yes, they did just upset the 49ers, but even at that point, you beat them 28-3, and you only passed for 186 yards in that game. The offensive production from this team is scaring me a little bit, because even the game before that, in the Colts game, you only threw for 202 passing yards. So you're averaging you're averaging 200 yards or less passing. Now, for somebody who's a dual threat when it comes to passing and running, and the amount of money you just held your franchise up for hostage in the past offseason, will they or will they not pay you? Well, you got the bag, but you're not producing the results. So when I think about this Ravens team right here, and the questions that you're asking, what must the Ravens do to take control of the AFC North? They need better play out of their star quarterback that they're shelling all this money out to. It all starts from the top. And Lamar Jackson needs to get out of his head and turn things around out there as a production-wise in order for this team to trend upward. 4-2 is okay, but for what you're paying him and other players in this team, you got Mark Andrews around you as well, who's a great tight end. All these other players around you. You got OBJ, who doesn't even want to be there anymore from what it seems like, with all this stuff going on. All this turmoil. You got too many stars around you, too many talented players for you to be given these type of results. 4-2 is okay, but at a third of the season, the type of talent that you got and the predictions that were going during this offseason, I expected a little bit better out of you.
Yeah, and to give a more perspective, you have the Browns at 3-2, you have the Steelers at 3-2, and you have the Bengals at 3-3. So the other 3 teams are within a game of the Ravens. So who do you predict winning this game?
It's tough. This one is tough because the beginning of the year, I'd tell you the Ravens were going to easily beat the Lions.
Right.
And I'd probably be wrong with saying easily just because what we've talked about in the past couple of years of them on the come up. Okay.
Right.
And then seeing the results. But the way the Lions have been playing and the way that we've been just talking about the leadership of Lamar, unless Lamar Jackson leads this team to the type of MP for production wise from him, unless he comes out there playing like MVP season Lamar Jackson this game against the Lions are going to beat them. They are going to beat them by at least 10 points this weekend.
So for those who were keeping track and scored, that would be the 2019 season. I'm with you. What I've been seeing from the Ravens defensively, it's like they haven't impressed me, but it's not that they're bad and it's not that they're average. They actually are good. But it's not, it's not like, say, the 2000 Ravens squad where it's like, wow, that defense is playing so to the point where the offense is just totally dragging the team down and they're massively disappointing. The defense, they're doing just enough. They're doing just enough to keep the Ravens in and to give them opportunities to win. That offense, though, just seems to be up and down so much. And their inconsistencies, they can ill afford to have inconsistent play offensively against teams like the Lions. And that defense of the Lions is nothing to play with. This is not last year's team where you could score 40, 50 points against them every single week. They will make you work for those points. And they're going to make the Ravens work for their points here. I say the Lions are going to also win this game as well. Now, the marquee game of the week, you have the Dolphins, who are putting up Madden numbers at 5-1. They are going to South Philly and visit the Link to play the Eagles. They are also 5-1. The Eagles are 2.5-point favorites. Kickoff is, of course, for every Sunday night game, 8:20 on Sunday. The Miami Dolphins are first. So we're going to talk about them in a few minutes, but they scored 70 points against the Broncos. They scored 42 against the Panthers. They scored 31 against the Giants. But the defense just doesn't, and they scored 36 against the Chargers, but the defense just seemingly doesn't have it. And they proved it to me in the game in Western New York where they lost 48-20. Will the defense ever catch up to the offense of the Dolphins?
It's a really good question, and I don't think so. The defense that they have is better than some of the other teams the Dolphins have faced.
Yes.
On the Eagles side of the ball.
Yeah.
With the game that they had this past weekend, we're talking about with the Jets. And the Jets, the Jets defense smacked around this team right here when it comes to the Eagles. Okay, which is why, he threw 3 interceptions. So I don't have high hopes for not only them being able to stop the offense, but I don't even have high hopes going up against their defense because the Dolphins' defense is not as good as the Jets' defense. But it's not that bad either.
No,
it's still good enough to help this team, in some of these tight games that they're having, because they have had a couple of tight ones. They haven't run away with all of them. But the production of Tyreek Hill and the rest of that offense and Tua have definitely put the stamp on their victories they've had so far. But when I look right here, I just don't think that the Eagles defense can stop this offensive explosion coming from Miami right now.
That's a good point. And also another good point you brought up. The last time the Dolphins were on Sunday night was when they were in Foxborough. The game was 24-17. And the defense was the one that had to hold things together because Tua had an off game that night. In fact, that probably was the worst game he played all year. And I'm including the Bills game too. I think he was just not on that night. But the defense was the one to make sure that they would not lose that game. So they've shown moments, but not all the time.
It's something about Tua in night games. Tua in night games, he isn't really at his best. He does the best during the day, it seems like, from what I've gathered.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now on the other side on the other sideline, now of course they're going to be licking their wounds off of the 20-14 loss where they had a 14-3 lead against the Jets. Now they're at home and they are playing a team where they got to be all in 11 strong on the defensive side for sure. And of course, on the other side, they want to reestablish the fact that they can just simply bury you in the dirt with that offensive line and the running game. How do you think the Eagles will respond after the L that they took in the Meadowlands?
It's as far as their defense, they're not going to be able to stop this Miami Dolphins offense. The only way that they're going to be able to respond from the L coming out of the Meadowlands is if their offense just goes off. Like they've got to match each and every possession with the Dolphins. And I mean, they cannot afford a punt. If the Dolphins punt, you need to score. Like that's the only way you're going to get the one up in this game is if the Dolphins have to punt and you convert on that punt by scoring and don't look back. And then you can go back and forth with the scores in the alternate possessions at that point. But that's the biggest concern that I have here. That's the only way I feel like they're going to be able to respond from this L in the Meadowlands and come out with the victory is if they start out early by matching them and then capitalizing on at least one mistake. That's the only way the Eagles are going to be able to take care of this.
And so you're calling a track meet is what the Eagles have to do, which I could see that. I could totally see that. All right, so who do you have in this game?
Based on their loss to the Jets last week and based on what they've got coming up the week after, the Eagles need to win this game. They cannot afford to lose this game because you got the Cowboys right behind you in the division. However, I think the Dolphins win this game. I think their offense is going to be a little bit too much for the Eagles defense. Jalen Hurts already couldn't live up to the pressure in the past week playing against the Jets, throwing for 3 interceptions. I can't be that high on him to overcome that against a Dolphins team that only one team's been able to stop all year. So when I put that in perspective, thinking about you got to face Tyreek Hill and the fact that he's been averaging 100+ yards per game, and 1 touchdown per game, and has been going video game every game, I just don't have it in my heart to give it to the Eagles. I got to give it to the Dolphins this game.
I understand that. And yes, play along like Mick is doing. He says, look, with the Chargers Chiefs game, he has KC winning it. With the Lions Ravens, he said the Lions are going to take it. He picks the Eagles in the Sunday night tilt, and actually so do I. And the reason why I do pick them is because I love when a team plays angry and they can channel it. Now that's the key. If they play angry and they channel it, because I think they need to feel offended that they had a lead against a team that they are better than. Because let's make this completely blunt. The Eagles, talent-wise, they have more talent than the Jets. They do all around. They should feel offended that they dropped that game to the Jets, and I think they're going to come. They're going to come to this game with the Dolphins, and I think they are going to look at them and probably want to send a message and say, we're not the team that you saw in the Meadowlands. And we're actually not the team that you have seen for most of the balance of this year, maybe for the exception of the game we played in Tampa. Because, the offense was explosive against the Commanders at home, but the defense didn't come to play. Let's be honest. They didn't. And that had a lot to do with the Commanders too. But I think the Eagles need to come with that venom of, we are the best team in the league, and we're going to show it because we're going to be the team that people say is the best in the game right now. Now, would I be surprised if the Dolphins pull it off? No, I wouldn't be surprised in the least. But I think the Eagles need to take offense to the fact they dropped the game they should have won against the Jets, and they're going to take it on the Dolphins. And I think the physicality that they have is going to be just a little too much for the track meet Dolphins that that they want to have. The Dolphins want to make this a track meet game. The Eagles need to make this a knock them down, drag them out. And I think they can succeed in that. All they have to do is look at the tape of when they played Buffalo and see that a physical team, if you lay on them good enough, they can stop that speed. But I do agree with you, though. They need to curtail them going score for score, because if that's the case, the Dolphins can run away with this quite easily and quite quickly. So, yeah, I agree with you. But those are the games for this week. Stay tuned. We have the rest of the slate later, but we have other things and other business to take care of. So come on back, why don't you?
Next, the chopping block and snowflake of the week. This is Total Football Talk. Join Ryan McCarthy.
I became a Jets fan because Kermit the Frog was my favorite Muppet because he was green, and the Jets wore green. That's how I became a Jets fan.
And Dustin Henry.
ESPN is cashing all in on let's pay a few personalities and we'll just kind of fill in the gaps.
As they walk you through all of the world of sports from their perspective.
The Albany Empire, it's a literal circus.
No credentials required. Where, Ryan, say the tag.
Where you don't need a press pass to talk sports.
Every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. On YouTube and where you can find all podcasts. This is a BS3 Network presentation.
I want to do a TED Talk, but I don't have anything to talk about yet. I'm getting there.
Life is for the living. We're not here that long.
You can learn anything you want to learn without any money spent.
What do I really enjoy? What do I really want out of life?
I am your host, W-I-Z-E.
Are you in a life holding pattern? Well, this is for you. Welcome to the Stuck in My Mind podcast. Live every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 4 p.m. Central. Football, and more football, you say? Well, tune in to Total Football Talk. Join your hosts, Drew Willingham.
You were playing like a dumpster Pelican quarterback.
And Cole Johnson.
It sets up a possible play action. Did you hear that, Dak Prescott?
As they take you through all the paces, both on the field and in the boardroom, of Total Football Talk. Every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central. Exclusively on the Sertoba Media and the Comey Media Incorporated YouTube channel.
Welcome back to Total Football Talk. Joined, as always, by Drew Willingham. I am Cole Johnson. And we're just enjoying this. We're enjoying this process. We're enjoying you all here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for commenting. And if you have anything that you want to comment on, don't be bashful nor shy. Drop those requests, comments, or even questions in the chat. And if it's good enough, we will put them on air and read them. And we appreciate everybody who wants to be a part of this Total Football Talk family. It's been new, but it's been wonderful, and we are enjoying it. And speaking of enjoying something, I think we're probably going to enjoy rolling out the chopping block. Now, we sort of teased this in the featured attractions portion of the program, but the Dolphins defense found themselves down 13-0, actually 14-0, before the first quarter was over. And the biggest key to the win that they've had, it was considered not panicking. It was considered that, let's not get too down. Let's stay calm. Let's play within ourselves. And, of course, then they responded, and they went 42-7 the rest of the way. Offensively, I don't have a problem with them because all you need to do is just give them daylight, and they will just operate at will against any defense. Defensively is where I have the issue. So my question to you, sir, does the Dolphins' defensive philosophy need a complete overhaul altogether?
For the most part, yes, because they're going to have a big challenge this upcoming weekend against the Philadelphia Eagles because they're no slouch. And like we were just talking about in the last take, they're going to have to go back and forth like a track meet in order to really make this happen, in order for the Dolphins to take the win over the Eagles right here. And in some cases, the other way around for the Eagles, because both sides, the Eagles got a decent defense and a decent offense, and they're well-rounded. But the Dolphins just have a stupid offense right now. Like you said, the daylight, you give them a little bit of daylight, they're going to take that inch and make it a mile. So when I think about this right here, this offseason, they're going to have to make some moves to upgrade that defense, because you've already got great pieces on offense. Don't let any of that walk away and keep them healthy. But you got to make some upgrades in this defense if you want to not only go to the Super Bowl, but win. And you still got to get past the Chiefs first before you even get to the Super Bowl, or let alone the AFC title game. So putting all that in perspective, you got to think about that. Defense is key. Establishing the run, having a decent quarterback, and having a great defense to rely on at times in the game when you really need them the most. Those are the three big parts for me when it comes to the game of football. And they have two of the three.
They have 2 of the 3.
The third one, they're lacking pretty hard in, because even that 70-20 game against Denver didn't even deserve to score 20 points. It should have been 70-0.
Oh my gosh. You're too funny. 70-0. Well, forget the Chiefs. The Dolphins need to get past the Bills, and they're having issues getting past them, and those issues still linger even as recently as late last month. So to your point, I agree with you. I think they need to overhaul their defense, because they need to have that side of the ball help them get over the hump. Otherwise, there will be the also rants, and they don't want to be that. They want to be the main contenders, not pretenders. So I agree with you 100% there.
Hey! Who's giving them the business?
And that he calls Bunker Stay Field took to task the offense and himself, because he took blame in the 20-6 L that they suffered at home to the Lions. Now, with his 19 of 37 for 206-yard performance, he had this to say about Sunday's performance. Quote, "We suck today. I suck today. We suck today. It was awful. If we play like that, we're going to lose every time. Defense and special teams did an amazing job yet again. In offense, we just need to pick our stuff up." Close quote. Now, my question to you about Baker Mayfield, it's not about him. It's, to me, about the philosophy of that team, and they are led by their head coach, Todd Bowles. Now, they went to the playoffs last year, winning the NFC South with an 8-9 record. And although they're 3-2 now, they don't look all that impressive. So do you think Todd Bowles' days as a head coach in the NFL in general are numbered?
I mean, they don't even have a losing record. They don't even have a losing record at this moment. So I can't completely throw Todd Bowles under right now. If anything, you should be mad at yourself for taking Bruce Arians out of there and not letting him remain there just because him and Brady didn't see eye to eye. Okay. Now, when it comes to Bunker Stayfield, right? I'm proud of you for owning up to the fact that you suck. Okay. Because that's why you have the name of Bunker Stayfield, and you bunkered it up this past weekend. And I'm glad that I get to say that again. It's been a couple weeks since I got to rip into you for bunkering it up. And you sure did lay an egg this past weekend. Because one person sucks, somebody else's job's got to be accounted for. No. What else do you have to put in there to take Bunker out? You think somebody else is going to come in there and do like what Philip Walker, old PJ, did for the Browns this past weekend? Do you think so? No, I don't see anybody else. Kyle Trask is probably the 18th dumpster pelican up there because he can't even fill Bunker's shoes in that moment when it comes to playing quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because you don't have Tampa in you don't have Tom Brady and Tampa Bay anymore. I can't even say it. You don't even have Tom Brady and Tampa Bay anymore. You can't call them Tampa Bay. You can call them the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because they are bunkering it up just like their leader at quarterback. You cannot put it all on Todd Bowles. Give the man some breathing room. Find yourself a legitimate quarterback out here in these streets who doesn't bunker it up every other game in the NFL.
He actually named the 18th dumpster pelican being Kyle Trask. Goodness gracious.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
I smoothly went to that too while in mid take.
I know. That's what made it even more beautiful. I'm like, oh my gosh, he smoothly went to that in mid take. Oh my gosh. The pro that is Drew Willingham, ladies and gentlemen. So it may be strange, but the partnership between Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore definitely was always strange. And back in 2015, when McCarthy was with the Packers, he said he would never call plays again as head coach. That changed starting this year. Now, last night, the Cowboys and McCarthy being the chief play caller for the Cowboys went against the chief play caller of the Chargers, which was Kellen Moore last night, 20-17. The Cowboys beat the Chargers, obviously. But seemingly, the playoff woes of the offense fell on the shoulders of one Kellen Moore and not on the shoulders of one Mike McCarthy. But they considered this year's offense a work in progress. So I will ask this question in all honesty. Why is Mike McCarthy fitting the Heyman's noose around his thick neck?
He wants out. He probably has had enough of Gerald, as you call him, and the other people that are working in that main office, probably talking in his earpiece throughout the game. The man probably can't even get 2 hours of sleep without a text from Gerald. So when you think about everything in his life right now, he probably wishes he never came back to the NFL as a head coach. Because if you're going to go from saying, I'm never going to call plays again, to now in your short term as the Dallas Cowboys head coach, you're already calling plays again. Mm-hmm. Hey, I think that it's, we're talking about Todd Bowles potentially might be time to go. And that question might be asking, when is it time for Mike McCarthy to go? Because, 4-2, that record, it's okay, but it's not good enough for old Gerald.
No, Gerald is not happy. Now, oh Lord, as Wise has come back to say, like Sam Howell and Daniel Jones.
Hey, Samuel Howell is 3-3. And the last time I checked, when it came to our predictions on In or Out Sports Debate episode 99, someone is right and someone is way wrong. And the one who's right is talking right now.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
I still love you, Wes.
If the Giants actually end up 1-7, oh my gosh.
You'll never hear the end of it.
I know I will never hear the end of it. From both of you. That's the sad part. I won't hear the end of it from you, and I won't hear the end of it from Wise, because I do shows with the both of you. And I know I'm gonna hear it.
Stuck in the middle.
Yeah, yes. I am like that song. Yeah. Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you. Yeah. Yeah, that's where I am. Goodness gracious.
Total Football Talk.
No, it's not the Christmas season yet, but it is time for the snowflake of the week, where we award the person who is soft, who is horrible, who is just not worthy of credit. And for the snowflake of the week, it's Drew.
We've gone back and forth when it comes to this snowflake of the week. Now this is the 7th edition of Talking Snowflakes. One of my favorite segments of the week when it comes to talking about a snowflake. You cannot get upset when someone is on your airwaves talking about someone absolutely playing like one of the biggest dumpster pelicans you have ever seen. When it comes to the snowflake of the week, I had a toss of the coin. Yes. And both of these dumpster pelicans, I'm thinking, are in my head. They are in the top 4, as you see, of those dumpster pelicans right there. But I had to literally flip a coin when it comes to who is going to be my snowflake of the week, because they both seemed very snowflake-esque. And with this one, I couldn't give it to somebody who I've already picked to be on the list.
Right.
So I had to go with somebody else.
Okay.
And for this week, I'm going to make Cole smile from ear to ear when I talk about the Titans and their quarterback, Ryan Tannehill.
Oh.
When you are 8 of 16 for 76 yards and a whopping interception, Ryan Tannehill, the savior of Tennessee, coming up in here and doing what he did a few years ago and being this great quarterback that was overhyped, way overhyped, severely overhyped. We've been talking about it before that season even ended. And look at where we're at now. 76 passing yards. Ryan Tannehill is my snowflake of the week.
I like it, sir. I like it a lot. Yes. I know I'm biased. I don't care. I like it. I like that a lot. Get better and heal up, Ryan. But yes, you have not played all that great this year.
And I owed you one just in case you don't make it back.
Well, I hope he does. All right. Yeah. Now, mine is not going to be on the field. Mine is going to be on the sideline. And yeah, I could choose somebody on the Panthers. I could choose somebody on the Broncos. I could choose somebody on the Titans, and I was thinking about choosing somebody on the Titans. And it actually wasn't going to be Tannehill, but I was going to pick somebody else. But I'm going to bypass them for now, because the person who's going to earn this distinction, Arthur Smith, come on down, sir. For those who don't know the name, he is the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. And you, sir, you have a hard dilemma on your hands, because you have the ability in a weak division to own it. Yet the team that you were going to be playing next is 3-2. Your biggest rival is the same as you, 3-3. And of course, you can simply say to the Panthers, but you're acting as though you don't want the division. Why? Because you have made some boneheaded decisions, the most of which is making Desmond Ridder in Sunday's game throw the ball 47 times. Now, you could say, well, but Cole, he did throw for over 300 yards in that game. Yes, I give you credit. He did. But he threw 3 picks. You should know better than that by now. Now, I'm going to take up for my partner here. You have a quarterback, to me, that I think could guide this team better than Ridder. And I get Ridder needs the reps. He needs the time. He needs to get in rhythm. I understand that. However, this team is better than I think you all thought it was going to be. So because of that, one Mr. Taylor Heineke needs to be the starter for this team. Why? Because I think you need to have the quarterback that is fiery, that has the confidence, that can actually lift a whole squad up that may be average, like your team is, to actually pretty good. Desmond Ridder, he can't rise a team from average to pretty good. He can make an average team even more average. just like he did last week in the win against the Texans and this week in the loss to the Commanders. Both times he threw for over 300 yards. Both times the team was pretty average, but they just didn't shine because they are in these games that they should win, but either they're losing or they're squeaking them out. So you're making bad decisions, sir. And you are thankful. You better put your knees to the ground and thank your lucky stars that you are coaching a team that is in the worst division in the league, because you, sir, are maybe 3-3, but they're 3-3 in spite of you. They're not 3-3 because of you. You need to guide this team better. And oh yeah, I thought you were a defensive wizard. I guess not. Oh well, sir. You're melting.
In that 2-point conversion attempt.
Thank you, sir.
What was that?
I could not say that better. Make better decisions from the sideline, sir, because your decisions are already costing your team wins. And that's going to come back to bite you come January, where you're hoping that you need to have a loss by one of your divisional rivals to get into the playoffs, and they disappoint you and win. So, sir, tighten up your game, because they don't deserve you there, and they deserve Taylor Heineke to be quarterback of the Falcons. You better get into a place where it's cold and you can become a stronger snowflake than you are, because you're turning into a puddle. Sucker.
The 2-minute drill is next. This is Total Football Talk. Hey, Eagles fan. Join my man Cool McCain and a host of others as they break down every single game, every single week in an objective manner, and also from a fan's perspective as well. Remember, this cast feels just like you. Nobody likes you. And you don't care. Fly, Eagles, fly. Eagles Elite Podcast. Every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and other podcast outlets. Oh, yes. The tradition, the pageantry, the spectacle, the history, the slut. Wait. I gotta rep my brother's stuff right. All my DMV soldiers, stand up! And welcome to the Commander's Gridiron Report. You want your Commanders to be repped right? Well, D. Willie is your man. Commander's Gridiron Report. Every Monday at 3:05 p.m. Eastern, 2:05 p.m. Central. Exclusively on the Sertoba Media YouTube channel. Music by J. Cool.
Where my soldiers? Right side. Commanders. Where my soldiers? Left side.
Join the transporter to Hades.
Your butt and gut becomes one.
Join the reformer of hooker whores.
This is my daughter, Placenta Booty Johnson.
Join the bronze god.
Whenever you are in distress, take off your baseball cap and throw it in the air.
Join your very own superhero of broadcasting, Chris Bass.
So whatever color crayon they get, they palm it and do 2 circles, and that translates to, I can beat up black people.
As he takes you through the week's paces in Baseline. Live every Saturday at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central, Pacific time zone people, just stay asleep when this is on live and just catch the recording. Oh, I'm sorry. Exclusively on the Chris Bass YouTube channel.
And now we have made to the home stretch of Total Football Talk with Drew Willingham. I am Cole Johnson. And quickly to the for the feedback zone. Mick says, look, slow your roll and stay in your lane, Drew.
What I do? Mick.
Oh my God.
What did Ike say about the underworld?
I got that. I got that. Why it says, look, we both know your team will be the one that will let you down, and we'll of course touch on that later on in this segment.
Wise.
Stop it. Get some help.
And that was a slight to you, and here's the slight to me. Bias? No, not you. Yes, me. Yes, I would love for the Titans and its stadium and its practice facility to be buried 6 feet under. Yes.
What?
Yes. There isn't a bias at all. Because I rooted for this team when I was a child and they betrayed me. There isn't a bias at all. No. Mm-mm. Ike Dawson, he says, look, the Titans look like a team possessed by the elves of the underworld. And he says, look, stay in your lane, Mickey.
I can't tell you how many of my productions, the two of them go back and forth about staying in their lane. They're policing each other, but nobody's doing anything.
That's hilarious.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, I love you guys. Thank you for the energy and thank you for the comments. Keep them up. We love you guys. Seriously. Oh, my goodness. And now we have come to the 2-minute drill, which is the best of the rest in the NFL. Of course, we're into week 7, and we are in the bye season of week 7, and there are teams that are on byes. And the teams that are on byes this week will be the following: the Bengals, the Cowboys, the Titans, the Jets, the Panthers, and the Texans. Again, the Bengals, the Cowboys, the Titans, the Jets, the Panthers, and the Texans all have byes for week 7 of this year.
And there's not enough help that a bye week can fix some of those teams on that list.
Wow. You are absolutely ice cold. Goodness gracious. Wow. Really? Why we can't fix it? Wow. That's like saying to a person, wow, there's not enough anything that can fix your ugly. Wow, that's cold. All right. Let's get to the Thursday night game, shall we? 8:15 kickoff between the Jaguars and the homebound Saints. The Jaguars are 4-2. The Saints are 3-3. Excuse me. The Saints are favored by 1.5. Your pick, sir.
Based on what the Jags did this past week, I feel like they got a good chance of taking the victory here on the road. You know, they've proven that even being in London doesn't completely throw them a curveball. So going to Vegas isn't going to be that big of a deal. I mean, go to New Orleans isn't going to be that big of a deal. So here, when it comes to the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think they're going to win in the game over the Saints this week.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a close affair. I think the Jags will win. Of course, I'm rooting for the Saints, obviously, but yeah, I think the Jags are going to take it. Wise says the Lions are the best team in the NFL at the moment. Well, I mean, they have a 5-game, they have a winning streak that basically, I should say win streak, but they have a winning stretch that goes 13 out of the last 16. So yeah, it looks like they're playing the best, because the only other team you can say that played better in that stretch would be the 49ers. But
no, Chiefs got a Super Bowl, so I disagree.
No. I'm talking about in that stretch. Now, of course, the team that could say they really are the best, of course, is the one that's holding the most recent hardware. So, yes, I agree with you. Sunday, 1 p.m. kickoff. The Raiders at 3-3. They sleep at Soldier Field. No, they won't be sleeping at Soldier Field. The Bears will. When they play the game, they are at 1-5. The Raiders are favored by a field goal. All right, who do you have in this game, sir?
I feel like with the questions we have surrounding Jimmy G, and, Brian Hoyer starting an entire game, if that's the case, with his bad back, I think the Bears are going to stick it out in this one and win by that field goal. I think they got it wrong in that pick. I think the Bears are going to win this game if they're facing their backup quarterback for Vegas.
Dang. I thought you guys are going to pick the Raiders. Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Bears are actually going to win this game. The Raiders find a good way of basically screwing the pooch. I think they will do that again. this coming Sunday. Wise says the Lions beat the champs, which that is true. Not only did they beat the champs, but they beat them in their own building too. So yeah, in the chat, come along and pick along with Mick. Mickey's saying, look, the Jaguars will take that game. The Bears will take the Raiders and Bears game in Chicago. Okay. All right. 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. The Browns at 3-2. They travel to Indianapolis where they play the Colts, and they are 3-3. The Browns are favored by a safety. Who do you have, sir?
Based on what the Browns did this past weekend with the upset and the momentum that's coming from that, in the way that the Colts played as well, I feel like it's inevitable for the Browns to win this game, go 4-2, and knock the Colts down to 3-4.
That would make me happy. I would love to see that happen. Now, I don't have the hatred of the Colts nor the Jaguars like I did the Titans, but they still are AFC South teams. So, of course, I root against all of them unless they are playing to favor my Texans. So, yes, I think the Browns, although yes, they're playing more than likely they might play without Deshaun Watson. I think they defensively can handle the Colts, even though they are playing in Indy. Wise says, look, no Fields, no chance. I agree, except we're talking about Bowl Cuts team. Mickey says the Browns, and also Wise says the Browns. Thank you. I agree with you both, and so does Drew. Sunday 1 p.m. kickoff. Bills are favored by 8.5 as they travel to Foxborough. As the 4-2 Bills play the 1-5 Patriots. Who do you have, sir?
The Patriots will match a record that another team I'm about to discuss will match, as they will go 1-6 after this game with the Buffalo Bills. The Bills will be 5-2. Patriots will be 1-6 and join an elite group that will be 1-6.
I actually think the Patriots should be rehearsing right now for the offseason because they are.
Absolutely.
That should be the Bills all day and all night long. Mickey and Wise say the same. This, I think, should be a no-brainer. Another 1 p.m. kickoff for Sunday. Your Commanders, Drew, at 3-3. They travel to the Meadowlands to play the Giants at 1-5. The Commanders are favored by a safety. Who do you have, sir?
I have come this far, and I am not budging on my take. The Giants will be at home hosting the Commanders this Sunday. And a news flash to those of you who have been paying attention. The Giants are going to lose again, and they're going to be 1-6. And I'm sorry, I do not want to be the bearer of bad news. And you can put as many exclamation points on your comment as you want to, but it's not going to change the fact of what's going to happen, Wise El Jefe. The Commanders are going to win this game. They are ready. Look at Sam Howell managing the game. And no, not till 11:30 p.m. Eastern. I'm not going to do what your comment just said, because that's when I'm on my time. But I'm on Cole's time and podcast stream time, so I can assure you there are no roadblocks in this right now. I have been right so far. Your team is 1-5. Are they not? Or are they not? They are 1-5, and they only got to lose 2 more games, and I'll be right for the rest of the season. I hope that I'm right, but if I'm wrong, we've had one great run so far for these season, and it has been fun. And I hope, for my sake, that they get the win, that being the Commanders, this Sunday to prove my point just a little bit further. They are going to knock you to 1-6, and then we're going to see who will be the other's daddy at the end of that game.
Oh my gosh! Oh Lord! Mickey says, "Stop smoking the marijuana, bro." Oh my goodness! Of course, Wise picks the Giants. Mickey pitches the Commanders, and Wise probably, in bizarre Wise form, says your team will be the ones to let you down.
Read that while you say that in the mirror to yourself, because that's what's been happening all year. You are the one that's 1-5, not me. I'm 3-3. It's still not easy, Street. It's not. I'm not boasting about being 3-3. But what I am boasting about is being correct. I'm about 1-5, and I'm going to be right again this Sunday, and one game away from being right for the first 8 weeks of the season, for one team at least, for just one team. But hey, I'm right so far, and I'm going to flex it a little bit.
Oh my gosh. Why is this? Do I hear a little doubt in your voice? I'm like, oh my gosh, you're too funny. No! Oh my God, too much. I actually have to go with the Giants. And the only reason being, I want to be more sold on the Commanders' offensive line. If they could protect Howell better, I probably would say that they would take this game. But I just get the feeling that unfortunately, as the sieve that they are, they could probably keep the Giants in it. And they only need one play here and one play there to do it. And this is in the Meadowlands. If this was in Landover, I probably would pick the Commanders. But I don't know. I just get the feeling the Giants, and I don't even consider this an upset. I mean, it's a divisional rival game. I think they actually might pull it out. Now, I don't have a horse in the race. I don't care who wins, really. But I just, that offensive line of the Commanders, they give me huge pause. Now, the Commanders' defense is great, but that offensive line.
And guess what, Wise? You got to go through that defense to get to the end zone. So I'm just still saying, don't get so excited about your 1-5 team coming in there and thinking that on your artificial grass that you're going to come out there and get the victory.
Mickey says, I thought you were going to pick the Giants, Drew.
Why? When I said in week 1 or before week 1, they were going to go 1-7 and the Commanders were going to be part of the ones that beat them. So far, except for the game that they've won, I've been right about the Giants all season. I just had week 1 and 2 wrong. Other than that, I had everything else right. But the record through 6 weeks is still right, Mick. So it's okay. We're all human. You were probably wrong about something today that had nothing to do with football. I just happened to be wrong about something with football on live air, and I will admit that. I'm a human being. I made a mistake. My apologies. I'm probably going to do it again at some point, but not to the level of some people with a show title that starts with a U. And on a network that starts with an F.
Why it says it's going to hurt losing to a 1-5 team. Oh my gosh. I'm loving this Commanders Giants fire. This is beautiful.
We need to do a live stream during the game.
That would be hilarious.
Live reactions.
From one divisional rivalry game to another, the Falcons are 3-3. They travel down to Tampa to play the Buccaneers at 3-2. The Buccaneers are favored by 2.5. Who do you have in this game, sir?
Well, if Arthur Smith doesn't go for 2 in a stupid decision moment like he did in the past game against the Commanders, I feel like the Falcons have a good chance of winning this game against the Bunker Mayfield-led Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yes, it took me a second to get it together right there because I wanted to make sure I got his name correct when I said his name. Buccaneers are going to funk it up this weekend against the Falcons. Falcons will be 4-3. The Buccaneers will be 3-3.
I want to have faith in the Falcons like that. Unfortunately, since they've been 0 for the road, I think they will add another L to their road total. The Buccaneers, they'll be ugly, but they'll win it. Why is this? Yeah, next week you will be eating crow, and he calls you again Mr. Disrespectful.
Hey, if I'm wrong, I will eat it with some barbecue sauce. But when it comes to that, when I'm wrong, I will sit up here and take my licks on the chin like a man. I've done it before, and I've come a long way because of it. I do not care if I am wrong because it doesn't change the fact of you're still 1-5 going into this game. And I was still right for 6 straight weeks. So yes, I might be Mr. Disrespectful to you, but to others, I'm just spitting facts.
Oh my gosh. And there's 4 more days of this. Okay. The Steelers at 3-2. They will be traveling to LA to face against the 3-3 Rams at SoFi. The Rams are favored by 3.5. Kickoff is at 4:05 on Sunday. Who do you have, sir?
This game is going to be a little bit tighter in my opinion than the previous games. The matchup here, the level of caliber on both sides of the football are pretty even. Like they're not high caliber, but they're not the bottom of the pack either, but they're somewhere along the middle ways. I feel like this game's going to come down to whoever doesn't make the most, whoever makes the least amount of mistakes is where I was going with it. And I feel like in this game, the Rams have a good chance of winning this game. If they continue to establish their running game with Williams like they have in the games that they've won over the past month, I feel like they got a good chance of beating this team because Kenny Pickett just isn't really standing out to me as someone that can lead the Steelers to the next level. And they have dropped back plenty levels since Big Ben retired. And even before he retired, because he was, on the decline because he was getting up there in age. It's been a while since we've seen the Steelers at the level of what they played, which is probably since before the pandemic. Even though Mike Tomlin has been flirting around with still having decent records to end the year, he still has a long way to go to bring this team back to where they once were. And I think that the Rams, based on what we've been seeing out of their running production over the past month or so, it's time for them to get the win over the Steelers in this game.
All of that makes logical sense. It really does. It really does. But the Steelers, especially defensively, they have played illogical. They had no business winning the game they did against the Browns. They had no business winning the game they did against the Ravens. And I would say they had no business winning the game in Las Vegas, but then again, we're talking about Bowl Cuts team, so they had every business to win that game. I actually picked the Steelers because I just do not trust the Wunderkind, because he'll probably throw it 50 times in Sunday's game instead of realizing he needs to run it. Wise says, your issues with Baker sounds like a certain Braun hater. Oh, Lord.
If you do your research between certain said individual that you're discussing and myself, there's only like maybe 4 or 5 episodes in my entire portfolio where I have said the words, well, not to get back 7 now because we've got 7 episodes and it's all been on this show. Okay. Where I've said the words Bunker Stayfield and lit them like I have. You go to said individual's portfolio and I guarantee you that and I'm probably not being overzealous with this, over 65% of his content has something in there that hates on LeBron. Over 65%. Okay. And I'm doing this as respectfully as I can. You know it, and I know it because you watch it on a particular day of the week where there's one day just dedicated to the hatred of that man. I don't do that. I don't have an entire episode for 2 hours dedicated on hating an individual. I just don't have it in my heart. So don't you ever compare me to that situation again, because even though I may take things to a certain level sometimes, there's a fine line, and unless somebody puts me in my place afterwards, do the best I can to not jump over. So thank you, Wise, for getting me hyped up, because I still have one more show to go, and I need this energy to get through that show tonight. So thank you. I love it.
Oh, Lord. Mickey picks the Steelers. Oh, my goodness. Really Wise. Let me go on.
Wasn't it on a punch?
The Cardinals are 1-5. They are in Lumen Stadium or Field or whatever the heck they want to call it now to play the Seahawks. They are 3-2. The Seahawks are favored by 8. Kickoff is at 4:05 p.m. in Seattle. Who do you have in this game, sir?
If the Cardinals play like they did this past week, they're going to lose the game. We've been talking about how they've been in several games throughout this year, and they've been very close. But if you play like you do in this past game, you have no hope of beating the Seahawks. And the Seahawks definitely didn't play their best in the past week either. So they definitely need to step it up if they're going to have a chance of winning this game. And I say that lacklusterly because they are playing the Arizona Cardinals. But again, the Arizona Cardinals are no slouch. If they play to their potential, they can upset some people out here and mess with some people's records and their seedings for playoffs. And, you know, we can't really say that but so much for a lot of teams, but the Seahawks still have a winning record and still have a chance to make noise in the playoffs. You cannot afford to lose this game against the Cardinals, but you can if they get on you pretty early. But I have the Seahawks in this game.
I do too. Cardinals have just done very little to impress me the last 2 weeks, unfortunately. And the game in LA was absolutely horrible. Mickey also picks the Seahawks. Another stay in your lane reference. Oh, Lord have mercy. To the 4:25 p.m. kick, the other 4:25 p.m. kick. Of course, the Chargers and the Chiefs are the other 4:25 p.m. kick. The Packers at 2-3. They travel to Denver to play the Broncos at 1-5. The Packers are a favored team by only 1 point. Who do you have in this game, sir?
Packers, enough said.
Okay, the Packers. I agree, Packers. And so does Mickey. To now the final game of the Week 7 slate. The San Francisco 49ers at 5-1. They try to rebound 8 days later to play the Vikings at 2-4. The home team is a 7-point underdog. Kickoffs at 8:15 p.m. Monday night. Who do you have on this game, sir?
I got the 49ers. Based on the way that they lost the game to the Browns this past week, there's no way they're going to lose to a lesser caliber team in the Minnesota Vikings. Now, had this game been week 1 and we had all what we had last year and the hype of the offseason on both teams, I would be speaking a lot more respectable about this team right here, and that being the Minnesota Vikings. But seeing what we've seen so far throughout this season, Kirk Cousins coming back down to life, Kevin O'Connell not knowing what he's doing with steering that ship over there in Minnesota from what it looks like on the outside looking in, I got to give it to the 49ers. They're going to be embarrassed by the way that they lost this past week. They're going to be humbled a little bit too, and they're going to come out playing a little bit better football this week. I got to give it to the 49ers.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. All I have to say is Cousins will probably throw for about 250, 260 yards. And if he does, that means it's an L. And it would be an L. The 49ers have this game wrapped and sewn. I just don't see them losing 2 in a row and dropping another egg to the Vikings. I don't see that happening. But what I do see happening is the end of the 2-minute drill.
Total football talk.
As long as it's one. It's great. I love it. I hope it actually is recording.
And now we have come to the post game, where we wrap up everything and we have a final say in all the things that happened in week 6 of the NFL season. And for his post game, I go to Drew.
Is it okay if I share the news with my post game report there, Cole, or do you want to save it for after that?
No, go ahead and share it.
Okay. So, for those of you who know Cole and I outside of watching our shows, we both work full-time careers. And, really cool careers outside of this as well, to be honest. I don't want to go too far into it for secure reasons, but what I can say is within the past week, I was offered some more responsibilities, some more opportunities for growth within my business that I work, but there's some changes. Before I was working Wednesday through Saturday, 4/10s, which was really cool. I really loved it, having 3 days off. It was pretty sweet. But now, with the change of responsibilities and opportunities and where I'm going to be in this sector of where I'm at, they need me to work 5/8s. Well, actually, technically 5/9s with an hour break, but we're not going to get to that far in detail. Anyway, when it comes to that, I'm still working the same principal days, just have to add on a day. And unfortunately, that has to be Tuesday. Now, doesn't mean you're not going to see us on Tuesdays anymore, because working with a legend right here, the two of us communicating the past week and figuring things out, we figured out that we can still keep this show on the air for you on Tuesdays. We're just going to have to go Tuesday morning. You do from 9 a.m. to noon Eastern time. So for those of you out there who have a hard time getting up in the morning, let us wake you up. Make sure you set your alarm for 9 a.m. Eastern time. And I'm going to make sure that I'm awake too, so that way I can bring the same fire that I bring in the afternoon too, because it's going to be a little bit of a culture shock for me too. But when it comes to this show, the fun that Cole and I have each and every single week, this is I didn't want to work with any of my other projects on rearranging the time till we figured this out right here, because it just feels like we just started the show a few minutes ago and we're almost about to hit 3 hours. That's how I know that this is something special, because it doesn't feel like I'm on here for the amount of time that it is, having the fun that I've had with Cole. And I appreciate him for working with me in this abrupt change that just happened. Luckily, it doesn't change until next week, which is why we were still here at the same time for you guys today in the afternoon. But for what you guys are giving us and the growth and the things that we're seeing on the different platforms based on whether it's a short here or a feed there, this is something special enough to where in my heart, I want to continue doing this. Cole feels the same way. And that's why starting next week, you will see us at 9 a.m. Eastern time, same format of the show. Nothing changes. You just get us a little bit earlier in your day. So it's not Folgers is the best part of waking up. It's us with Total Football Talk. We'll see you next week.
I could not have done that or written it better. I love that. Thank you, sir. So yes, to reiterate, yes, Total Football Talk will still be on Tuesdays, but it will be 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central on every Tuesday. So tune in next Tuesday. That's when it will start. And we look forward to doing it. As he says, the best part of waking up on Tuesday morning will be Total Football Talk on your TV screen and on your computer screen and on your smartphone too. We are a third of the way through the season, and I heard someone talk ill about the sport, saying, well, the play is bad because we only had two teams that scored over 30 points. The Dolphins at 42 and the Jaguars at 37. And his I won't mention the guy's name, but his take was whack from the standpoint of you're dealing with teams that now are getting into the groove of things. And football is a sport of momentum. You get the feel. It's an ebb and a flow. You will have games where offenses will just simply attack. We witnessed it already with a team scoring 70 points in a game. And you're going to have teams that struggle to score. And we saw the two biggest upsets being that particular understanding, where you have the 49ers that was scoring over everybody, only matching 17 against the Browns, and the Eagles that were basically lucking into some wins and squeaking by many weeks. They couldn't squeak by. It's a game of ebb and flow, and it's not an indictment against the total quality of the sport, because in fact, the total quality of sport actually has improved a bit. It's improved a bit, even with defenses catching up in speed to the offenses that they're throwing. We're seeing more offenses now that are going away from the RPO, and they're trying to attack more in varying formations. Of course, yes, we're seeing more shotgun, but we are seeing a different sport. And unfortunately, for those get off my lawn take individuals, the sport evolves. So get with the times, get with the evolution, and understand that you're not dealing with the 70s where you basically were like what Gail Sayers said in the 60s. Just give me 18 inches of daylight and I can make it work. This isn't a 3 yards in the cloud of dust type of game anymore. Get used to it. Get used to a fast break style on 120 yards of field, and you better like it or get out the way. Either way, the game isn't changing. You're just showing that you are.
As long as it's one. Oh, it's great. I love it. I hope it actually is recording. Listening to it.
You just brought up a great point. If you don't mind, I want to recap on one thing you just said, because you just brought up a great point when it comes to people stuck in the past with the old ways of the game. That's why I said what I said earlier when it comes to Rex Ryan. Him thinking he can come in here after being gone for 7 to 8 seasons, full seasons, stuck behind a desk, and thinking that his defensive scheme is going to change the type of football that today is. That's why I had to support with what you were saying, as people need to stop being stuck in the past. And if you don't have a way to evolve and change with the times to stay relevant, you're going to be stuck in that past of what you were looking for, those 3 yards in a cloud of dust plays, because it's not like that anymore, like you said.
But you can still have the physicality on the ground because, like you said early in this show too, you need to have a strong running game. I don't care what defense, what offense you run. You still need that. So you can still implement that. You just can't implement only that. And
if they anticipate 55 passes a game, you're doomed. Like the Colts.
Yeah. Just like if they anticipate 55 runs, you're doomed. I mean, now, unless you can boogie on them, cool. But I mean, not with these defenses. No. Ike is happy for you. He says, congrats on the new opportunity. And I am 100% with him. I support that statement. And I've said that to you privately. I say it to you publicly. Congratulations on your new opportunity.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And Mickey says, look, I love all the shows you guys do. Thank you. And you, sir, are a content creator that we love too. So we appreciate everything you do too, my man. And thank you for the support, brother. Any final thoughts before we do let our wonderful Total Football Talk audience go?
I hope those of you that have been following us in the afternoon can stick with us in the morning. I appreciate, the growth that we've seen each and every week. This was definitely something, like I told Cole last week privately, this was something that was kind of revving up my anxiety, because I was kind of dreading to have this conversation. We finally got everything settled. Cole comes up with this awesome commercial, and I hate to make any changes or anything once we finally get in the groove, but unfortunately for this, in order to keep it going, we did. And if it wasn't for him, and if it wasn't for you guys that are tuning in, watching this thing would not be what it is. So I appreciate, Cole, you as much as I do the fans, because looking forward to seeing how this thing shifts into the morning time. But again, we need you guys to come with us, so stick around. We got some great things in store next week as well.
Yeah. And I think we'll definitely give you the same stuff, the same way we deliver it. That's not going to change. But that I think will be good in the morning as well as we have been in the afternoon. If you want to follow Drew, here's his social media homes. You can find him on Surtoba Media on Instagram, Surtoba Media, Surtoba_media on Twitter, and the Surtoba, the _Surtoba on TikTok and other platforms as well. And you can also find him on was it the D Willie, I think, on Instagram?
On Instagram is at the real D Willie with dots in between. And in Twitter or X is the same thing, just without the Y, because unfortunately that was one too many characters said X when they switched from Twitter to X. I'm sorry, but I'm going to go off the rails for a second. X is a stupid name, and you could have done a better job, even though we are both streaming to your X right now. When you have a platform called X, and I tell people, oh yeah, you can find me on Facebook, you can find me on Instagram, and you can find me on X. It feels like I just skipped all the other letters of the alphabet just to go to X. Yes, X is now on the list of dumpster pelicans. You're that blue Walmart bag off to the side that doesn't even cool enough to be a dumpster pelican. You are just the bag that it's munching on. You are the trash of what the dumpster pelican trash-esque animals chew on.
That's terrible.
Absolutely. So you could have came up with a better name instead of you chose a letter from the alphabet?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Why couldn't you have chose A? Because A is the best grade that you get in school. If I was want to go on anything, I'd want to go on A, not X.
What?
Yeah. X, not A, X the X. That's how I feel when it comes to signing on to X and typing up my take and sharing my content on X.
The X. Oh my gosh. If you need to find me on social media, just go to floco.com/page/host Cole Johnson. Guys, I can't even speak because Drew's take on X is taking me out of here. That is floco.com/page/host Cole Johnson. Oh my gosh, you are too much.
Hey, and guys, just to kind of give you some clarity there, all of this stuff that you were just looking at on the screen, you can find in the description down below for one. And I need to stop slacking. I need to jump on this flow code bandwagon because I'm giving you like an actual an actual story of links to click on, and Cole has one. I gotta get on this. This is me. This is my fault. But I'm just one guy trying to carry a brand. Help me help myself by just sending me a message sometimes that says, Drew, jump on that flow code, and I'll do my best.
Oh my gosh. Oh man, he's sending me into the night laughing my butt off. I love it. Look, thank you guys for thanking. Thank you guys for sharing. Thank you guys for subscribing. And thank you for hitting that notification bell so you can catch any and all content that emanates from the great Sertoba Media YouTube channel, which now has over 1,000 subscribers, I may add, or the Comey Media Incorporated YouTube channel. For Drew Willingham, I am Cole Johnson, here to say in parting, as we always do. In life, just like a tackle, keep your head up. And always remember, you got to play until the whistle blows. So long, everybody.